among the people, and a blessings to the Lord, and a blessings to other nations of the earth. Lord, keep this nation under your care. For the Prime Minister and members of the Cabinet, and to all in administrative authority, grant wisdom and grace in the exercise of their duty. Give grace to your servants, O Lord. Let us say the Lord's Prayer.
Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come. Thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive them that trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen.
Good morning to everyone. Parliament is now in session.
Announcements by His Honor the Speaker.
At this point in time, I'd like to just acknowledge the presence of honored and invited guests. The Honorable Charles Griffith, Minister of Youth, Sports, Community and Empowerment. Mr. Ryan Mosley, Manager of Youth Entrepreneurship Scheme. The co-chairs of the Barbados National Youth Parliament Committee. The other committee members of the National Youth Parliament.
Messages from Her Excellency the President, petitions, papers, government notices, private members' notices, notices of questions, reports from select committees, first reading of the bills, statements by ministers, congratulatory and/or obituary speeches, personal explanations, motions for leave of absence, oral replies to questions, notices of motions for the adjournment of the House on matters of urgent public importance, orders of the day. Government business.
Leader of government business. Government business is the order of the day.
In the name of Order number one. In the name of the Honorable Prime Minister, to move the passing of a resolution that the Barbados National Youth Parliament, in the name of the people of Barbados, and in particular the young people of Barbados, denounce all forms of discrimination in education, and B, urges the Ministry of Education, Technological and Vocational Training and the Ministry of Youth, Sports and Community Empowerment to consider the following recommendations designed to facilitate the evolution of public education into a system that is fit for purpose in a 21st century Barbados. A, the creation of a more inclusive curriculum which promotes lifelong learning, teaches essential skills which are critical for life in the real world, and provides freedom of education for students whose passions lie in the pursuit of non-traditional subjects. B, the integration of pupils with special needs into the mainstream school system, and when necessary, the provision of part-time special needs education in small group settings. C, the greater adoption and integration of technology within the education system and the mechanisms for the delivery of teaching. D, the enhancements of the system of continuous professional development for teachers. E, the reimagining of the Barbados secondary schools entrance examination to enable 40% of the final grade to derive from formative, continuous assessments, and 60% to derive from on-the-day general papers. F, the relaxation of the traditional dress code policy for students in the order to stimulate expressions, creativity, and independent thinking. And G, the equal treatment of students and all subjects.
Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I beg to move the following resolution on education reform. Mr. Speaker, it gives me great pleasure to be here this morning, especially during this week, the week of the youth, Mr. Speaker, to speak on such a topic that is as important as this one, and that is education reform, Mr. Speaker. You see, education is not just about math and English. It is about how we treat people. It promotes critical thinking. It helps us to find employment. But overall, it helps us to be a well-rounded citizen, Mr. Speaker. And that is why the government is proposing this resolution on education reform, Mr. Speaker. We have to come to a point in time now where we address this issue, where we allow our students in this country to reach their full potential, Mr. Speaker. And that is why the government thinks that it's important to diversify our current curriculum. We want to expand. Sorry about that. Can you guys hear me now? Okay, perfect. We want to expand what is being taught currently because we understand that times are changing. We understand that technology is advancing, and as a result, the way that we do things currently has to change, Mr. Speaker. We want that if a child has interest in robotics and coding and agriculture, that they would have the access to learn that at the grassroots level and be able to expand and build upon it as time goes on in their education, in this education system, Mr. Speaker. We want our students to know that, to feel comfortable, Mr. Speaker.
Before you go on, Madam Prime Minister, I would just like to remind the House to have all your phones turned off or on mute. Thank you very much. Madam Prime Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, we also believe that just because you don't have interest in studying the traditional subjects such as, law, medicine, that you should not be treated unfairly because you have an interest in a subject like agriculture. And I know that we're on a good path as it relates to incorporating these things into our education system, and I want it to continue, Mr. Speaker. And that is why we believe, Mr. Speaker, that we have to diversify our curriculum at this time, Mr. Speaker, because we have to let these children reach their full potential. And Mr. Speaker, we have a tool in our schools already that would allow us to do this, and that is our HFLE program, Mr. Speaker. I believe that this is something that I feel passionately about. I believe that program can be a transformational tool in the lives of the young people in this country, Mr. Speaker. It will not directly take away from the original curriculum that we have, but it would be that window for us to let these children be educated on certain topics, such as financial literacy. Mr. Speaker, I was in another place, and someone asked me, what's the difference between a mortgage and a loan? And I'm here to say that cannot happen in this country anymore. We often say that the youth is the future, Mr. Speaker, and we have to start equipping them for the future and also for the jobs of the future. I began by saying that technology is advancing, Mr. Speaker. And we must equip our young people with the necessary knowledge needed to take up those jobs of the future, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I feel good today to know that we're on our way, but we can do more. We can do more. I want to go back to this HFLE program and why I think that is important. Because, you know, school is one of the highest institutions that we have. And whatever you can't learn at home, you should be able to learn at school. And that is why we think that, you know, this HFLE program should be revamped in a way that, you know, because just to talk about my personal experience with HFLE, it was more about sexual health and stuff like that. And the honorable member on this side, he will expand upon it and talk about his good experiences that he had with HFLE and how he was able to learn stuff that he didn't have the access to learn at home. And we feel that if you do not have that access to learning life skills at home, you should be able to learn it at school, Mr. Speaker. Because like I said before, school is one of the most social institutions that we have, and we must utilize it, Mr. Speaker, and we must utilize it, Mr. Speaker. Moving on, I just want to talk to the youth of this country as it being Youth Week. I want to let them know that to take your education seriously, because there are persons that are out there that may not have that time or that energy or the resources available for them to have to gain their education. And it is a transformational tool. It is something that addresses systemic poverty, you know. For me, education, it gives persons that chance. It gives you that chance, regardless of your socioeconomic background, regardless of your race, regardless of your creed. It gives you that chance, Mr. Speaker. So I just want to urge all the youth that is enraged of my voice to take your education seriously, especially at the tertiary level, because you will be the new doctors. You will be the new lawyers. You will be the new policy makers in this country. And when it comes down to making those critical decisions that will impact on the national development of this country, you must be equipped with the knowledge to do so. And the only way that you can do that is if you take your education seriously, Mr. Speaker. With that being said, Mr. Speaker, I'm looking forward to hearing the discussion today. I hope that we leave home the theatrics, because this is something that is very important. And I hope that will be a solution-based discussion, Mr. Speaker, so that those above us and those that are in authority can listen to what we have to say and subsequently implement them. Because this space that we have right now is a privilege. And I'm extremely grateful to have the opportunity to lend my voice to such an important topic as education reform, Mr. Speaker. So, as I started by saying, we have to start equipping our young people with the necessary knowledge needed to go forward in the future, Mr. Speaker. We have to start catering to their needs, because every child does not want to learn, law and stuff like that. Every child does not have the same interests. But just because you do not have the same interests does not mean that our school shall fail them, Mr. Speaker. They should be able to feel comfortable. They should be able to have the access to that necessary knowledge for them to reach their maximum and their full potential in order to add to social development and national development, Mr. Speaker. And that is why the government is proposing these things. Yes, please. I'm wrapping up at this time, Mr. Speaker. So like I said, I really do hope that this debate is one that brings forth solutions, because this is a topic that needs our urgent attention, Mr. Speaker. And with that being said, I am obliged to you, sir. I do now, right? Yeah. I do now move for this resolution to be passed, Mr. Speaker. You pass that one, sir.
I second that.
Next speaker. Terrell Giles, Leader of the Opposition. Just to echo some of the sentiments from our Prime Minister, some salient words spoken. I understand that at this point in time, a lot of discussions are being made on the IMF and the debt that the island has now taken on. Just to encourage all of us here in Parliament and even those in audience. This is a time where we have to invest in ourselves and in this investment understand what will come forward.
Good morning, Mr. Speaker. Good morning to the other side. Good morning, guests. And good morning to the opposition. And before we reach the climax of this debate today, I said, before we reach the climax of the debate today, I just wanted to acknowledge and thank those from the different levels of schools and education in Barbados, be it secondary, I see primary, and I see tertiary here today. And it is important that we have representation from all of them, sir, because this debate largely is surrounded by all of them. And it is indispensable, sir, that we must understand that just like many of the other topics that we debated, be it gun crimes and irrelevant punishment associated with them, sir, be it public health, education is one of those topics that we cannot afford to politicize, and that is what the opposition has not come here to do today. Just like gun crime, sir, we recognize that the gun doesn't care what political party you're associated with. Neither does education, and neither does public health. And sir, that is why the opposition has prepared a solution-based, comprehensive, and meticulous approach today to this debate. And our educational system has worked. It's worked, it's been good throughout the years. But sir, the times are changing, as the leader of the government business said. And if we do not seek to upgrade and get better with the times, we'd soon realize that we are preparing our students for a test match with a T20 strategy. And anybody who knows cricket knows you cannot go to a test match with a T20 strategy or you end up out by midday. And sir, one of the things we want to thank the government for today, the government of the day, of course, Oliver Sikat, sir, he has his own school in the US. And his focus was on closing the attainment gap in the US. Because, sir, I have the statistics here. If your family makes $100,000 or more, you have a 73% chance of completing tertiary education. However, he noted that if your family made $65,000 or less, your chances then reduced to 15%. And if your family made $33,000 or less, sir, your chances were even decreased more to 10%. And sir, I thank the government for the return of the free education because we don't have that problem in Barbados. Our students just over 1,000 of them who benefited from the return of the free education at the University of the West Indies, sir. The first cohort graduated last year, just over 1,000 of them. And sir, I am proud to say that I am one of them, and I am proud to say that I am now excelling in my field of study, just like many others. And my family certainly does not make $100,000 or more per year. And sir, I want to extend my sympathy to my colleagues who were caught in the student revolving loan, especially the ones who had just gotten a loan the year before the education returned, because their bellies are hurting. How would you feel if you had just gotten a loan for a car, sir, yesterday, and then you hear today that the cars are going at 95% off? How would you feel? And there's nothing you can do about it. And some academics may say, unfortunate, but not unfair. But sir, I want to say thank you again to the government of the day. And sir, I had a friend of mine, he said to me, some ladies of the night, some regional sisters, sir, here in Barbados, who were doing their job. And he said, some live to go there, and some go there to live. But one who goes there to live, sir, said she is going there to pay for her degree. And sir, we had another brother from St. Lucia who said they all compete, over 7,000 students compete for just one scholarship to the University of the West Indies, sir. Just one. And it is important that we realize the privilege that we have here in Barbados, and we take advantage of it, and we embrace it, sir. Sir, Oliver went on to say that in his school, he didn't want persons in authority to determine that a teacher should finish a curricula in 2 weeks, because he understood that teachers got personal with their students. They knew their students. And sir, we need to understand that teachers must be given a little more leeway with their students, because we can't tell them finish the syllabus in 4 weeks, when really and truly the students are 6-week students. Sir, I had the privilege of visiting my alma mater on Wednesday. I won't say which one. But what I will say, though, is that teacher was so intimate with her students, teaching the students about politics and governance and bureaucracy, using the examples of animals, sir, talking about how the dog and the pigs, sir, were the prime minister and the governor, and how bureaucracy and corruption took place. And sir, I wish that I had the opportunity to be taught with examples like that. And sir, I think that we need to have more town halls with our teachers, because those are the ones on the ground. Those are the ones that we need to consult. And those are the ones who can help us better our curricula. But it is important also to recognize and realize that we are here to reimagine education and the delivery of such. And this debate is not about curricular reform, but it is more broadly about educational reform, sir. And sir, as we speak about the integration of technology into our schools, we need to answer ourselves a very important question, a very ugly question sometimes that some may say in Barbados. Do we want to raise Luddites, or do we want to raise technophiles? And sir, I ask that question, sir, because as we have seen, as history presents itself, we've moved from an industrial society to an information society to a knowledge society and a knowledge economy of today. And sir, the industrial society was based on physical labor and physical power. The information society, sir, was based on how much information you can gather.
The opposition, you have 2 minutes remaining.
Thank you, sir. But this knowledge society, sir, is how you combine the two. the physical labor with the knowledge, sir, and the information and the implementation of ICTs and technology, sir. And sir, we must meticulously implement ICTs into our schools, not just because of COVID and relinquish them now that we've gone back to face-to-face, but sir, if we really want to create global and digital citizens who can compete worldwide, sir, we must continue to push this digital citizens agenda. And sir, I thank you for your 2 minutes, but I'm asking in advance for a few more seconds because it's now getting interesting. I have the privilege, sir, of moderating with my co-pilot, Mr. Howell here, one of our local calling programs, and I won't say which one. I'll say that off air. And some callers may ask, why are we pushing all this technology? Why should a mason or a carpenter get involved in technology? But sir, we need to recognize that e-commerce and e-business is on the rise. People don't. Sir, it's not that we are saying everyone must go to college, but we must recognize people don't even pay you with cash anymore. People don't even want to print a check. You must be able to maneuver the banking apps to check your balance. I heard a young man the other day saying he's going to the bank to check his balance. Unbelievable, sir. This is 2022. Sir, even the mason gets paid online. And we must be able to teach them from school, sir, how to maneuver this technology, that as they become global and digital citizens, they are not robbed. And sir, as I conclude, I commend our regional brothers and sisters who utilize the CPEA. But what I will say, though, is that just as we look at Singapore, and just as we look at Finland as how they finish the job and get the job finished with education, we must be able to look at different policies, sir, and pick and choose what may fit in Barbados, because we cannot put a round peg in a square hole, and we must do some more consultation with the students. Because what if the students actually like the common entrance exam? I'm just saying. And sir, as I seek to wrap up once again, the rules, sir, with the hair. Imagine we suspend persons for nappy hair, sir, and tidy hair. As many writers, like our very own Nikolai Peters once again expressed, that no longer are our colonizers policing the hair, but our own black people are policing the hair, sir. And sir, when we suspend persons for this year, they're just missing school. Then we ask them to repeat a year. What education are they gaining at home? And sir,
Honorable Leader of the Opposition,
thank
we're
you, sir.
wrapping up.
Yeah, I'm wrapping up. In fact, I'm
Thank
just
you.
getting back to my closing point here, sir, that in a knowledge economy, sir, sometimes you may never even see your employer or employee. They don't care what hair you have as long as the job is being done. And we recognize the tardiness of the MP for the city of Bridgetown today, sir, because there was another fire in the city this morning. And I wrap up by saying I extend my sympathy and empathy to those families. And as the MP for the city of Bridgetown seeks to implement and mobilize persons from the fire service, sir, to educate persons in the city, I say let's do this on a national level. Let's educate them all about fire prevention. Sir, I also say, let us educate our children about
Honorable
contracts
Member,
and what's
I
not.
hate to out your fire, but
Thank
the time
you.
is over.
Thank you. I'll allow my team to expand and expound on what I was not able to touch. But sir, I really want to say, we must continue
Honorable
to educate
Member,
our people.
have a seat. Thank you very much. Giovanna Eiffel, Leader of Government Business.
Mr. Speaker, honorable members, good morning. Our current education system is at its caterpillar stage. It is time that it enters that cocoon that is reconstruction so that it can evolve and metamorphosize into that butterfly that charts a path into the future. But how can we expect our people to go into the future when we fail to prepare them for today? We have to prepare our people for today if they are to go forward into the future, honorable members. And our current education system is failing to do that. Our people are of a new generation. How can we use old tactics on them? Our current education system, I would say, is not inclusive enough. We have students who are interested in certain things, yet it's neglected in our system, and then we have them slipping through the cracks. Honorable members, this must end. If we are to have a better and brighter Barbados, honorable members, we have to start today. We have to look at the process of how we educate our people today. We have to look towards change today, and that is why we stand here with this resolution. This resolution is a manifestation of all the cries that we have heard from our parents, teachers, and students alike, honorable members. We are here today to speak for them, to work with them. Our curriculum needs to include more of the skills that will prepare our students for the future. Jobs of the future are seeking important skills like communication, computer literacy, financial literacy skills. If you look at all the employment sites, you will see what I'm talking about. Our current curriculum is not teaching our students these things. As a matter of fact, I went to the supermarket for my mother, and I was looking at the bell peppers, and I saw it said $19.99 per kilogram. See, honorable members, it's amazing what a lack of knowledge on something could do to you. I looked at this price, and I called up my mother on the phone. I said, "Mommy, this is robbery. These people selling one bell pepper for $19.99. See, because I knew what a kilogram was on paper, but did I know what a kilogram felt like in real life? No, I did not. And I suffered for it. I had to ask a lady to help me, and the lady helped me measure on the scale, and she turned to me and she said, "Did they not teach you this in school?" And I said, "Well, no, they did not." See, honorable members, this is what I mean when I say that our curriculum is failing to teach the important life skills. And I stopped to think, how many other students went out into the world without realizing these things? How many of them had to pay for it? How many of them graduated with a fancy degree but did not know how to apply what they learned in the classrooms? Honorable members, this is what I stand here before you to speak for. I speak for change, and that is what I want to see in our classrooms. I want to see more of our young people leaving schools with qualifications, not our young males falling through cracks and few of them entering higher education. Honorable members, we are here today for change. And in order to have that change, we must start teaching our students these valuable life skills that the jobs of the future are requiring and that they will require to become adequate members of society. Our education system should not include just the knowledge to take our people into the future, but it should include the skills as well. Teach them how to apply what they have been taught in the classrooms, not to be robots who memorize and regurgitate. And our current education system is also failing the students in the sense that we want to promote individuality in our students, yet we send them home for their hairstyles. My hair, look at it today. It's not affecting my ability to perform. So why is it that in our classrooms, we are putting students out of class time because of something they could not control from birth? As a matter of fact, while we're on that topic, let us speak to the integration of our special needs students into the mainstream classrooms, because they too are crying out. They too want to be included. Honorable members, while we're on the topic of inclusion, let us speak about computer literacy as well. Our classrooms, our education system is failing to include the necessary skill that is computer literacy as well. If we want our students to be adequate enough for the jobs of the future, honorable members, then we have to instruct them in technology to a greater level. We can't have them going into society not knowing how to basically work a computer, how to use it to better themselves and further themselves as individuals. This is why I say that our current curriculum is not inclusive enough. We want our students to leave with great knowledge. We want to see fewer young people slipping through cracks, honorable members. So it is time that we stop ignoring cries, and it is time that we start to listen, that we open our ears, open our eyes, and open our minds to make our good better and our better best. It is time that we all become advocates of change. I oblige.
Leader of Opposition Business, Shakim Howell, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Good morning, honorable members, the distinguished young faces that join us today in the public gallery. It is with a heavy heart that I come to say to you today, the academic arena of this country is not awake. It has been sleeping for too long, honorable members, and it is now time for us to lend our voices and ask these giants of knowledge, these guardians of our nation's core, to get up, uplift, and transform this country. For too long, we have seen persons who have been entrusted with the tremendous privilege of the Locus Parentis Act, who is supposed to safeguard and protect and nurture our nation's future, not understanding the fullest extent of their duties. It is time that we have more passionate teachers who come to this institutionalized system understanding what it means to be a teacher. The time has come, my friends, where we no longer sign persons into classrooms just off of their bachelor degree, their associate degrees, and their CXCs, but ensure that they pass through the halls of Erdeston before coming to impart knowledge on our nation's children. The morals and virtues that we need to have passed on to our next generation of citizens, Mr. Speaker, is very important. There is a vast divide with ageism within our educational system. We must recognize that at least at some point, people may not be fit for purpose in the environment that they exist, but may be better agents for change, creating and providing literature for the transformation of this system. We need to acknowledge that this is a generation of young people, comrades, that need to be able to not just be the digital natives that they are, but be empowered to be ultimately connected to transform this nation forward. My friends, I speak to you today as a dyslexic student who got lucky in this country. Because my mother had an interest in teaching and did an early childhood course, she was able to identify the tendencies within me and took me to the Caribbean Dyslexic Center in Haggett Hall, where many people don't even know that that institution exists, to be able to be tested and evaluated today, that I can stand among you, competent to speak, competent to deliver, competent to be present among you today. But somewhere in Barbados, there is that child who may not be as fortunate as I, who may not have had that mother who had the exposure, who may not have had that community assistance to uplift them and allow them to be able to not fall through the cracks of this education system. We have students today who reach to the university level, and my friends, since I have reached that stage, there are persons who are lecturers and tutors with the highest and tertiary levels of this country who don't know what dyslexia is, who don't know what Asperger's is, who cannot cater to the needs of those who are marginalized in the education system. And ADHD is constantly dismissed in our young children as bad behavior, unruly, impolite, because our members of the system are not equipped, are not knowledgeable to handle, diagnose, and accurately deliver the information onto the next generation of leaders. We need to have something about this done. That is my passionate plea here today. Comrades, we are trying to speak about equality, we're speaking about self-expression, we're speaking about the transformation of our uniforms. I don't know if you feel the heat recently, but the heat is not just existing within our streets in terms of the crime and violence. The heat is existing because we have not safeguarded and put measures in place post-COVID to ensure that our nation's future do not suffer. The mandatory age for school is up to the age of 16 in this country. But I say to you today that that age needs to be raised to 17 and 9 months, honorable members. Because since the COVID-19 pandemic, we have had too many children who are not fortunate like you or I to be able to be readmitted to an academic system to safeguard them from the vultures of this country, from being exploited through underemployment or being unemployed at a 40% rate among youth in this country. And we need to safeguard them. We need to ensure, my friends, that we have every single building block in place. Because a house that is not built on a strong foundation will crumble. And my friends, I will say to you today this: the youth of Barbados are suffering for it. I commend the ministry for having their gateway initiatives, for having their next steps initiatives. But many young people are underaware of the opportunities out there to them. And what is the point of pumping money into programs and they're not known about?
Honorable member, you have 2 minutes left.
Mr. Speaker, thank you. I ask at this stage, my friends, what are we doing in this country? What are we doing in this country to liaison with the stakeholders on the ground? Because policymakers are not fit to shape educational policy if they do not have the robust discussion with those on the ground. And you may ask what I'm speaking about, Mr. Speaker. Education officers must have been teachers before, seeing what the flaws are before becoming education officers. Persons working in the Ministry of Education must understand the system that they're trying to shape. You cannot come to the top and expect that you will get the foundation fixed. It is like putting up a Christmas tree and just putting on the star at the top. Where are the lights? Where are the ornaments? Mr. Speaker, youth and student life. We speak about having persons engage in extracurricular activities and having the all-round 360 complete approach to education. We speak about the implementation of skills and vocational programs. But still yet today, Mr. Speaker, we have older grammar schools who don't see it important to do the CCLSC program. And these things must become mandatory to safeguard the future of this nation. And Mr. Speaker, you might ask what I'm speaking about when I say the CCLSC. It's a program by the Caribbean Examination Council, normally facilitated between second and third form just before you go to prepare for CXCs. But what that program teaches are the key rudiment principles to prepare our children for CXC. You have your group projects and your SBAs. You build the camaraderie necessary and the interpersonal soft skills that are needed for teamwork and collective and growth development. But then we have a very big problem, because how can we get them to the CCLS stage when we have funded the CPEA, the Caribbean Primary Exit Assessment, the research, all the other OES islands are using this program, thriving from the social studies, the civics, the mathematics, and the literature arts. And we have created this program. We have CSC headquartered here and we're not making use of it. It is baffling to me. It brings me to the next labeling cause on my heart. Today, Mr. Speaker, one more. Yes, Mr. Speaker, I'm wrapping up.
Thank you.
Mr. Speaker, it hurts my heart that we have come to this stage in this country where we have a leader, globally recognized. But when this leader was in the grassroots positions of cabinet and was the Minister of Education, she advocated for EduTech. And still, we were not ready for COVID. We were not ready to have our children digitally literate to be able to use things like Google Suite and Microsoft softwares. And that is the scariest thing to me. Because where has the money gone in education? Where has the finances gone? Because time and time we speak about reform, Mr. Speaker, and we spend all of this money with no results. We appoint boards and committees session after session. Widen sixth form opportunities. Every school is supposed to get a sixth form just now. But still yet, we are behind the margin of the marathon by a mile. Mr. Speaker, I do oblige to you.
Thank you, Honourable Member. Shaquem Jordan.
Thank you for recognizing me, Mr. Speaker. I am not sure how often members on this side are grateful that or I should say are in favor, per se, with what members on that side is saying. But I must commend the honorable member for his opening remarks, because it's actually the foundation. It's actually foundation to what I come here to speak today. Though I was told not to come based on medical reasons, I still had to make the effort to come here. The reason for that, sir, is I raised this morning to show my support and to also offer my contribution to this resolution. Reason being, not only is it innovative, it actually includes individuals with special needs. And sir, over my years of developing and going through school and traversing communities across this island, it has been a topic that has grown closer to my heart day by day. And as I limped up the stairs, I was also reminded that most of the buildings within this country is not even fit for purpose for individuals with special needs. And if you take a look at the education, though progress was made for those individuals, for our brothers and sisters that are not of the same caliber as us in certain areas, whether it be physical, behavioral, or emotional, nevertheless, they were excluded. If you take a look at the Education Act of this country, though it had been amended numerous times, never was the speech, the rhetoric within the document was assuring that individuals with those challenges will have the support of the government, will have the support of the country. And these individuals have dreams, aspirations, and hopes, just like me and you, sir. Through you, if you allow me to, I just want to express experience I had in my life where when I entered the gates at Paddock Road as a first farmer, I was confronted by two young ladies that are hearing impaired. And though the school had me in awe, that had me speechless. Why, sir? Because coming from a primary school system where individuals that are differently able than me were not included into the mainstream system, it was a foreign thing to me. And though it had me speechless, sir, is one that had me intrigued, and I had to question, how are the young ladies getting through? How are they managing? Because it is an unfamiliar thing. Nevertheless, the parents took the burden and took the plate of financing that venture for the children, which, in my opinion, that should be something that the Ministry of Education should have allocation for. As I said, not many times members on this side are in agreement with members on that side. Education takes up a good set of funds that this government receives through, it be loans or it be through taxes, and nothing is, or no allocation or no provisioning is made for individuals with special needs. Nevertheless, those young ladies continued and progress and become productive citizens in this country. The transitioning from school into work was easier for them because they had the opportunity to interact and to engage with individuals that are not like them. So it was a competitive advantage for them as individuals, the individuals in this country that has a special need. And they got the job over individuals that probably had other measures. And sir, also on that point, I also want to provide another example of which, when these individuals, when our brothers and sisters are given the opportunity, how they grasp it and take it to the next level. The former president of the Senate, Ms. Carrie-Ann Eiffel.
Honorable member, just for a point of order, not to you, but in general, when one is asking for permission to leave the House, is mandatory or is precedent to ensure that the speaker acknowledges you first before you leave the presence of the chamber. Just as housekeeping, honorable member, please continue.
Thank you, sir. I hope you would reinstate me a few minutes for that intervention. Nevertheless,
I'll grant you a few seconds. Continue.
a few seconds.
A few seconds.
Nevertheless, the former president of the Senate, Ms. Carrie-Ann Eiffel, a woman of many firsts. She was the first female to hold that position of being the president of the Senate. She was also the first individual with a disability to hold that position as president of the Senate. When she was given the opportunity to transfer from the Irving Wilson School to a mainstream school, such as Combermere, she grasped that opportunity, excelled, and went on to going to the university and receiving sociology and another degree, can't recall it right now. Nevertheless, it was a perfect example of how once we give our brothers and sisters with special needs the opportunity, they will grasp it and take it to the next level. Sir, I would like to go even further. If we take a look at the current climate, the social climate in this country, or I should say if you take a look at the social fabric of this country, it has been damped and molded and rotten day by day because a lot of our children are going through the system and not necessarily having not only confidence but appreciation for individuals.
Honorable member, you have 2 minutes and a few seconds.
A few seconds. Nevertheless, sir, thank you for the indicator. I believe the reason I am here today and the individual of which I became to be is because I had the early interaction with individuals with special needs. Because it made me care not only for myself, but to care for others. And to care for others that are not the same as me. It allowed me to understand how to deal with individuals that have difference in views, difference in mobilities, and it allowed me to also be an advocate for that change. And sir, I must say that this resolution should be commended, the members of which some are a part of the government side here today and some not, should be acknowledged and truthfully should be upheld for the great work of which we had produced here today, trying to ignite that change in the country. And with those of you that are within the chamber that have the authority of change, because we can only ignite that flame, but those individuals can actually amplify that flame. And I hope they hear the robust conversations we have here today, and they take it back to their offices, and rather it just be talk, we could see a lot of action coming, not only for us, the youth of this country, but for people with special needs. And sir, with those few words, I'm going to bless you.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. We have the Deputy Leader of Opposition, Nathan Simpson. Honorable Member, you have the floor.
Good morning to everyone. Sir, this morning, as I sat here, sir, from the members that spoke, it's clear that we all understand, sir, the importance of education reform. But, sir, I'm a bit concerned. I'm a bit concerned, sir, that we don't understand how our current education system, sir, has affected our children. So I'm concerned that, sir, we have children, sir, who have left secondary school, sir, and still can't read or write, sir. So I am concerned, sir, and sir, there's a quote here that I would like to, by James Baldwin, sir. It says, "Not everything that is faced can be changed, but nothing can be changed until it is faced." End quote. Sir, it's time we face it, sir. Sir, our education system, sir, has been flawed for way too long, sir. So why is it, sir, that our children are leaving school and can't count, sir? I don't know how to properly spend money, sir. Sir, my friend, sir, the leader of government business, sir, she spoke about integrating special needs students into our schools, sir. But, sir, I have an issue with that, because if we're going to do that, sir, are we going to train our teachers, sir, in order to get this done? Because we can't put these students in the classroom, sir, in these schools where our teachers are not equipped to handle them, sir. And the resolution, sir, does not speak about that. How can you want to integrate these students in? The resolution does not speak about training and equipping our teachers, sir. Sir, this is not right, sir. And So let us move on to another point, sir, which speaks about the integration of technology, sir. Sir, as you know, when we are in secondary school, sir, from first form to about third form, sir, there's something we do call information technology, sir. And that is where you learn the basic general stuff. And at some schools it ends, let's say first form, in some schools.
Honorable member, on what point do you raise?
I rise on a point of order. This honorable member is misleading the House. We said in our resolution that, I'll read the exact point for you. It says, the enhancement of the system of continuous professional development for teachers. Therefore, we plan to continue teaching our teachers so that we can safely integrate these special needs students into the classroom. So I ask that the honorable member please retract that statement.
Honorable member, do you retract that statement?
Sir, I stand by the statement, sir. Sir, I can read very well, sir, and did not say it, sir. I'm speaking about directly, sir, training these teachers for special needs students, sir. She got up, sir, and the member, sir, spoke about.
Honorable member, on what point do you raise?
I rise on a point of order again. This honorable member continues to mislead the House. Does the continuous development of teachers, is that not holistic enough?
It doesn't end.
It does not just need to include for special needs, but teachers need to be trained in other aspects as well. So I ask again, I plead with this honorable member to please retract his statement.
Honorable member, there's been a second request for you to retract those statements. What say you?
Sir, as I said before, sir, the statement, sir, stands. But I shall move on, sir. As I was speaking before, I was interrupted, sir. And sir, I think I should get on my time, sir, for the time she got up, sir. But anyhow, I'll leave that there. But sir, I want to speak about this. I was speaking about the information technology, sir. Sir, we spoke about integration of things, sir. But if we are looking to do that, sir, I think that we waited too late, sir. We are now trying to catch up the rest of the world, sir. Because at most schools, we only go to, I think, is third form, and then the students have to choose as an option. So I think that this should be mandatory from first to fifth. And even with our teachers, I think that a requirement to become a teacher, I think you should be able to be versed in technology. I don't understand, sir. We're in the teaching system for years, sir. And during online classes, you had to ask your students, how you set a link now? How is the Google Meet?
Honorable member, at what point do you raise?
Go ahead. Oh, I was ready to give away, sir. So as I was saying, sir, teachers were asking students how to create Google Meets and how to do this. Sir, this is unacceptable, sir. Sir, for way too long, sir, we have been failing our teachers and our students, sir. And sir, it hurts me, sir, that before bringing this resolution, sir, we did not, the government, sir, did not seek to consult with members of opposition, nor with the other stakeholders of education. Our teachers, sir, I am not seeing a lot here, sir, that speaks about our teachers. Sir, teachers have an input and are vital to our education system, sir. Sir, our education system, sir, continues to leave our students behind, sir. Sir, I am scared, sir, for my sisters coming to the education system, sir. Sir, some of our brothers and our sisters, sir, have to come through this education system, sir. We either got to catch up or left you behind. Sir, this is unacceptable, sir. And opposition come to them, we are standing for this nonsense, sir. Sir, this is a lot of... Sir, this is not acceptable, sir. Let me use a different word, sir. Sir, I am bait. I'm happy, sir, that the government understood that this is very important and they brought a little something to the table, sir. But I'm saying add some more, fluff it up, sir. Sir, I won't use the words that I used last time, sir. But I would say, sir, do something more with it, sir. Season it, yes, as the opposition leader says, sir. Sir, add some more to the resolution, sir. And so I want to speak about, quickly, before my time is coming to an end, about the the treatment of our
Just
students.
be a reminder, you have 2 minutes remaining.
That is enough time, sir. So I want to speak about the equal treatment of our students and our teachers. Sir, I think that our teachers need to be trained in empathy, sir, and how to deal with our students, sir, because, sir, you have the situation, sir, we enter class. Go time! Sir, sir, the teacher knows if I had a good or a bad day, but they come inside, I can really spoke or not, I can, hey, go guys. No, sir. Sir, if it was about to kill myself, sir, but I ready to get along, sir. So I think that we need to train teachers in these things, sir. And I'd like to our students need to be trained how to communicate with our teachers, sir, because I think it's a two-way effect. Because how you respond to me sometimes is how I respond to you. And I think that teachers need to know how to diffuse the situation. Because if I come in and they feel a certain, we don't know more than how they had, our teachers should be trained, sir, to at least diffuse that and come across with some empathy, sir, be empathetic to our students. So that's something we really need, sir. So let's not only focus on our curriculum and reforming this, sir, but also let's train our teachers in these things, sir. Our teachers know how to deal with anger management, sir, conflict, sir. Sir, the last minute I got, sir, I would just like to use this time, sir, to say to everybody, sir, that this morning, sir, we didn't come here to politicize this, sir, but we came here for people to understand, sir, the importance of the reforming education system now, sir. Sir, we are far too long gone waiting for this to happen, sir. It needs to happen. It is time that change come to our education system. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Honorable Member. Caleb Roach. Caleb Roach, Honorable Member, you now have the floor.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Sir, I rose to speak about technology, but I'm happy to see that the opposition recognizes that we need technology in our schools so that no child in Barbados gets disenfranchised or they're marginalized in these growing modern times, but I will still continue. Sir, our traditional education system once focused on the inputs, but now in these modern times it has transferred to the outputs of education. And by doing that, sir, it allows every child to want to learn and to want to be engaged in the traditional subjects that were not seen as engaging, now to be fun and more engaging. Sir, our Chief Education Officer, Dr. Ramona Archer-Bradshaw, she recognized the importance of education in our educational system because she knew that education and national development are connected. And I think another member spoken earlier that if we do not educate our children today, how would they contribute to the national development of Barbados? Barbados is that place where we hold our education at a very high esteem. And I know every member in here would like to see that education still remain top and world class internationally. Sir, I would like now to touch now on the 4 C's, which I think are critical, which would be critical thinking, communication, cooperation, because, sir, the same, our Chief Education Officer again stated that these 4 C's are critical in helping developing our children into the world of work and lifelong learning. Sir, it also creates a much more engaging classroom because through research through the Pew Center, it stated that 92% of teachers were much more persuaded to use online teaching because it provided them with the educational materials required to cater to every educational level, because sir, not every child learns at the same pace. And by doing that, sir, it allowed every child to be able to get education and process it in their own way, which will help to the benefit of Barbados, sir. And sir, other thing I also like to say is that this is modern Barbados, sir. No child in Barbados shall have to be left behind or be marginalized. Not in modern Barbados, not in 2021, not 2022, sir. And sir, I'd like to touch now on the tertiary, since someone spoke about it earlier. I know I speak for, I guess, the majority of you parliament when I say that we we will keep supporting free education in Barbados because as Arabaro did that were his two philosophies, that free education remain in Barbados and remains friends of all and satellites of none. And that is why, sir, I say that every youth parliament here will be happy to keep free education in Barbados because, sir, as the Honorable Leader of Opposition said, it allowed children who are not financially able to go to get that tertiary level education so they can develop in Barbados. And sir, since my closing, since everybody spoke on it before me, I support education reform as a youth parliamentarian because as a dyslexic child, I'm not able to sit amongst these esteemed persons and speak about education and how it needs to be improved to better cater to both me and I don't call the other side, Mr. Howell, because sir, we need to be able to have change now. Too much talk has happened. We need the action. And sir, that's all I have to say for now, but I'm obliged to you.
Thank you, Honorable Member. Honorable Member Abby Tanis, you now have the floor.
Thank you. Good morning, Mr. Speaker. Martin Luther King Jr. once said, "The function of education is to teach one to think intensively and to think critically. Intelligence plus character, that is the goal of true education." It is important that we as Barbadians take the initiative to make sure that as the world around us is evolving, so is our educational system, hence why we are here today. I would like to highlight a couple issues in the resolution, but I would also like to give some possible solutions that I would like the government to take into consideration. Firstly, I would like to highlight subsection F in the resolution where it states the relaxation of the traditional dress code policy for students in order to stimulate expression, creativity, and independent thinking. Again, I would like to caution the government to being vague when giving a resolution to the opposition. The government fails to say what the actual term for relaxation actually means. Does it mean optional? Does it mean seasonal? Does it mean, depending on the season or the weather, that children will be given a grace period for wearing more appropriate clothing, like the heat wave that is currently going on? The government did not even specify what level of institution this rule will be implemented on. Is it primary? Is it secondary? And what will happen to those students who cannot afford new clothes to wear every day to school? Is it even every day that they have to wear these clothes to school? Mr. Speaker, these were the questions that I would assume the government would have put in the resolution, but once again, I am disappointed. Secondly, I would like to draw your attention to subsection G in the resolution, where it states that the students and all subjects are treated equally. I cannot emphasize how important it is to be politically clear when bringing a resolution to this honorable House. What exactly does this clause in the resolution even refer to? Is it academic equality, gender equality, racial equality, subject equality? We cannot come to this parliament with this lack of specificity and expect to have a meaningful impact on the extremely critical matter of educational reform. We owe it to the students and to the future of this nation to seize this opportunity to enact meaningful reforms and not to treat these matters carelessly, Mr. Speaker. Lastly, I would like to encourage the government to not only look at the physical reforms, the physical aspects of educational reforms, but also to look at the mental aspect of educational reforms. I think we can all agree that based off of the last debate, it is very clear that we have an issue with students not completing And when I say students, I mean on the secondary level, they're not completing their studies because of mental health issues, and the pressure of the educational system.
Honorable member, just a few seconds. This is a notice to everyone in Parliament. At this current point in time, I would encourage everyone to have your phones on silent or off. We cannot have the proceedings of Parliament being constantly interrupted. Thank you so much for obliging. Honorable member, continue.
Thank you. I think that it's vital that as we are evolving our educational system, that our students feel, especially our students who are having issues, feel comforted to know that they have a safe space. So I suggest that we make it mandatory to have child psychologists on staff at all times. Now, I know you will say, well, that's why we have guidance counselors. But I am here to tell you, as a student myself, that it is not in the guidance counselor's job description to look so deeply after our students' mental needs. And even so, Mr. Speaker, not all schools even have guidance counselors. So that is my solution to the government, and I do hope that they take what I said into consideration. Thank you. I oblige to you.
Thank you, honorable member. The honorable member, Sarah Bisra, you have the floor.
Honorable members, Mr. Speaker, good morning. The education system of today is failing the students of the 21st century. For roughly 6 hours a day, 5 days a week, we spend endless resources in education, waiting eagerly for well-rounded students to emerge with the tools to push this nation forward. So why then is it students feel underrepresented? Why then is it society values exam success and not development? Why is it we are not doing more? These are the questions, Mr. Speaker, we need to not only ask, but answer, and this resolution seeks to answer. The government has a duty. In a world that constantly challenges and changes, we have promised the citizens of this country the tools to not only survive, but thrive. That is the true power of education, and why I stand here today to support this resolution, specifically designed to facilitate the evolution of the public education system. Before I continue, I would like to clarify Clause G, the equal treatment of students and all subjects. Throughout this resolution, we have put things in place. I thought it was implied, but I will expand. The creation of a more inclusive curriculum seeks to speak to all subjects being included. The pursuit of non-traditional subjects seeks to speak to all subjects being equally treated. The equal treatment of students speaks to non-mainstream students being students with special needs being included into the mainstream education system. The enhancement of the system of continuous professional development for teachers seeks to give teachers the tools to make sure that all students are able to survive in this system and thrive. And that is why we said the equal treatment of students and all subjects.
Honorable member, at what point do you raise?
Sir, I raise on a point of order. I know the honorable member said that she's misleading the House, sir. I just want it on the record. She said that she thought it was implied. Sir, when we get these statements with such ambiguity and vagueness, sir, we cannot just assume. We need to be more specific. As my side was rambling and trying to figure out what do they mean by equal. Their equal may not be our equal, and that may not be the equal for the students upstairs if you ask them, sir.
Thank you, honorable member.
I can appreciate that, and I hope that that I have expanded it is clear. Moving on. The Barbadian population has high level of access to modern media. This was confirmed by Generation Unlimited, The Wellbeing of Young People in Barbados, published in January 2020, which found that over 60% of households had a computer. Moreover, usage of computers and the internet was high for 15 to 24-year-olds at around 80%. Worthy of note, these statistics were recorded before the COVID-19 pandemic, which resulted in thousands of devices being distributed as a result of a collaboration between the government and the private sector. Now, I am not saying no technological gap exists in Barbados.
There are still students that are without devices, and there is still students that need devices. However, I'm acknowledging that we are closer than ever before to bridging the gap. And so it's key we do not remain stagnant. We need to continue research to ensure we fully understand the gaps, whether it be accessibility gaps, readiness gaps, what is keeping technology from being integrated. We do not want to stop at digital literacy. That is great, but it's time we use technology to act as a leverage in helping students better get through with their curriculum. That is what we need technology for. While I find it so valuable that I am able to create a Word document and a Google form for multiple choice tests, that multiple choice test is no different from my multiple choice test that was on paper. I want technology to be in schools where I, as a visual learner, can get the tools to excel. That is what it means by integration, true integration of technology. I think it is clear that most members in here do agree with the integration of technology points, so it is at this point that I would like to segue into the enhancement of training programs for teachers. Teachers are important stakeholders within the education system. If properly trained and enthusiastic, they have the tools to empower students to care about the subject material. But for that, they themselves need to be empowered to take creative risk in the classroom and try out new teaching strategies. Moreover, as I previously mentioned, teachers need to not only be digitally literate, but be able to leverage technology as a tool and as a teaching resource. According to Generation Unlimited, the well-being of young people in Barbados, as of July 2021, the proportion of trained teachers was 75% at the primary education level and 52% at the secondary education level. This is lower than the OECS member states and the Eastern Caribbean area averages for the secondary education level, 60 and 61 respectively. These statistics further emphasize the need for continuous training programs for teachers. How can we expect teachers to adjust classroom needs every day, nurture, empower, if we do not give them the tools to do so? We cannot underestimate the power of great teachers, and as a government, we know this. Hence why pre-existing programs exist, such as the ones offered by Erdiston Teachers College, and the Media Resource Department also informs teachers of massive online open courses so that they can develop at their own time. But this is not enough. We need to enhance this. Teachers need to be given the opportunity to learn at more frequent intervals, every midterm, and
On what point do you raise, honorable member?
Mr. Speaker, raised on a point of order. Because the honorable member would have sat on the other side of this chamber and heard me speak that the government currently has a policy in place that we continually to send teachers into these environments unqualified. So then to come here and allude to continuous training, in the first place, they were never qualified to be teachers. Because I am an excellent student, I have first class, I have a first class honor.
Please have a seat and allow the honorable member to continue her speech. Thank you very much.
I recognize in my statistics that there are teachers that are not well trained, and hence these programs, supposed programs that are in place, such as these courses, are not doing enough. I do recognize that. So it's at this point I would like to continue to say what the enhancement would entail.
Honorable member, you now have 2 minutes.
We would like to encourage more collaborative approaches to training programs. Specifically, peer review lunches, where teachers can discuss with each other with the hopes that they find new learning strategies and implement them in the classroom. Additionally, another proposal is to allow teachers to observe each other's classes so they can give peer feedback and perhaps have a group reflective session afterwards. Well, these informs.
At what point were you raising?
I stand on the point of order. The honorable member is misleading the host. She said that teachers needed to be provided with the opportunity for continuous development, but I'm here to say today that that opportunity was already there. The ministry offers a variety of workshops per year. The problem is, what does she mean by opportunity? On average, 16% of government spending and 6% of the gross domestic product of Barbados.
Honorable member, you have not yet spoken. You cannot address the current speaker, the current member who is currently speaking. Can you have a seat?
I gave reference to the programs that already are in place. I talked about what the Media Resource Department is doing. And then another honorable member got up and said that the teachers aren't even properly trained, so now I'm quite confused. But let me clarify. There is a good proportion of teachers that are untrained, and hence the need for training programs. There are things in place, such as the programs that I said Erdiston Teachers College offers, and the Media Resource Department, but this resolution is seeking to enhance those. I know I'm giving suggestions so that they may be enhanced. I hope that is clear. We've given enhancements for peer review lunches, more informal sessions where teachers can discuss, get in the classroom, interact with their peers, find out new learning teacher strategies. We also understand the importance of more formal facilitations, such as those offered by experts in the field, and hence where these are concerned, we would like to encourage relevance. Keep finding out what these teachers would like to learn and keep supporting them in that way and making sure that these programs reflect that. In conclusion, education is valuable, not only for the economic development of this country, but for every single Barbadian. It is the key for evolution. With the gift of paid tuition fees, we have assured the Barbadian citizens quality education. Now we must do our duty. Adapting to the current needs of society in regards to integrating technology and making sure that our teachers are properly trained and the training programs that are supposed to be for continuous development are continuously enhanced are just two parts of the major conversation that we are all here to talk about today, to ensuring that no child is left behind. Thank you, sir, and I'm going to you.
Thank you, honorable member. Member of the opposition, Tyson Holder. Honorable member, you now have the floor.
Mr. Speaker, honorable members of the House, education reform isn't anything that's new to Barbadians. As we know, the reformation of the education system was set to take place in 2021, but was delayed due to the COVID-19 pandemic. The current system has been in place long enough for us to take note of the shortcomings and make the necessary adjustments. So I'm not here to debate whether or not the education system needs to be reformed or not, because it does. What I'm here to debate against is some of the proposals mentioned in this resolution. The other side states as its first proposal to have the creation of a more inclusive curriculum which promotes lifelong learning, teaches essential skills which are critical for life in the real world, and provides freedom of education for students whose passions lie in pursuit of non-traditional subjects. This gives me the impression that these programs don't exist. If the government had looked on the TVET website, they would see that the Technical and Vocational Education and Training Council of Barbados already has a program called the Lifelong Learning Program, which involves, and I quote, the delivery of workshops, seminars, conferences, and advanced certifications in specialized professional areas. It is aimed at helping individuals to improve or update their knowledge and or skills, acquire new skills for a career move, retrain or continue their personal and professional development. And this is on the TVET website. This program has been implemented in some secondary schools, offering CVQs, and have tertiary institutions which are dedicated to training persons in these essential and vocational skills.
Honorable member, what point do you raise?
I would like to raise on a point of order. This honorable member seems to be reading.
I was quoting the TVET website. May I carry on with my
Honorable member from the opposition, although quotations are allowed, please do not refer too copiously from your notes. Carry on.
It was just a quote. Home economics, clothing and textiles, and hairdressing are just some of the subjects which are offered at these secondary schools. Furthermore, I'm about to quote again. During the virtual 73rd annual Erdiston Teachers Training College orientation, the honorable member of St. Michael Southeast states that speaks the upcoming educational reforms, which include replacing the Barbados Secondary School entrance examination, and also states that the process of transforming schools into specialist institutions has already begun. These lifelong learning programs already exist. What we must do, Mr. Speaker, sir, is to retrain our society to see the value of sports and vocational training for the development of our nation, and to treat every subject and career with the same respect as the next. The education system must accommodate to the child who is not interested only in academia, but in sport and vocational training, and incorporate it from as early as first form. Piaget's theory of cognitive behavior states that the formal operational period begins at about age 11. During this stage, people develop the ability to think about abstract concepts and logically test hypotheses. Therefore, we must not wait until the child has lost interest in the education system and no longer wishes to take their education beyond the CSET level to then want to accommodate them.
Honourable member from the government side, on what point do you raise?
I rise again on a point of order. It appears this honorable member's entire speech is a quote. He has been slavishly following his notes this entire time. Following his notes.
Already out there. All they needed to do was look for it.
Order from the opposition. Order in the House of Assembly. Thank you.
Prevention is better than cure, Mr. Speaker, sir. The leader of government business spoke beautifully about allowing persons to express themselves through their hair, yet it is not included in the resolution. Instead, they propose the relaxation of the traditional dress code policy for students in order to stimulate expression, creativity, and independent thinking. And before you stand, the Britannica Dictionary states that the dress code is a set of rules about what clothing may or may not be worn. Speaks nothing to here. Let me state clearly that I am absolutely not in favor of removing traditional dress code. A school's uniform is its identity, and I'm about to quote another study before you stand. A study entitled School Discipline, School Uniforms, and Academic Performance by Bowman and Herskova examines test scores and student behavior in United States, Canada, and 37 other countries to determine whether school uniforms affect student discipline. The findings show that, I'm quoting, students wearing a uniform listen better with lower teacher waiting times, as well as the fact that peak performing students have the highest level of discipline. However, what I am in favor of is dismantling the colonial rule that prevents students from expressing themselves through their hairstyles. As expressed by the Minister of Education in Guyana, a person's hairstyle will not affect their ability to learn. These are the school rules that affect a person's freedom of expression, not a school uniform. A school uniform enhances school pride, unity, and community spirit, while the rule on hair suppresses and oppresses religious groups that their main expression is through their hair.
Honourable Minister, on what point do you raise?
Sir, I'd like to raise on a point of order. The members misleading the House, and hopefully one of the members from the opposition can at least guide the individual that dress code does entail the hair also. It is part of the dress code.
My definition of dress code says otherwise. I will continue. My fellow youth parliamentarian, Nikolai Peters, in his article entitled Societal African Hair Discrimination, states that hair is a trivial...
Honourable member, you have 2 minutes remaining.
No problem. States that hair is so trivial in the grand scheme of things when our African kings and queens are hard at work trying to make a better life for themselves and their family. But in my last 2 minutes, I wish to give credit where credit is due. By their proposal, which seeks to integrate special needs students into the mainstream school system. A speech was delivered by Janelle Odell of the National Disabilities Unit on Sunday 25th at the National Youth Service, and she states that the youth is our future, but that future can only be bright if every single one of us is included. So this is an excellent initiative. But do not let that cloud the fact that this resolution still leaves out marginalized members of our society and lacks innovation as it seeks to implement programs that already exist. Much obliged, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Honourable Member from the Opposition. Honorable Member from Government. Tremaine Trotman, you now have the floor.
Thank you for recognizing me, Mr. Speaker. And before I begin my speech, let me just clarify something for the opposition, that when we speak about dress codes and we speak about things, remember that we are in Barbados. And as it relates to Barbados, the dress code does include here, Mr. Speaker. So let me begin. I would like to assure the public that reform is nothing to be afraid of. It is natural. Just as we in our everyday lives change as we age, our education system must too change as it ages. When we move from a donkey cart to a motor vehicle, and now we are looking to move to electric vehicle, our education system must do the same by including non-traditional subjects and teaching essential life skills in our schools, giving our students the ability to participate in everyday life, as our Prime Minister would have said on Wednesday at St. Andrews Speaks, that financial literacy must be taught in our schools so that our children and our people can better interact in our economy.
Honorable Member, at what point do you raise?
Sir, I raise on a point of order, sir. The honorable member seems to be misleading the host. I hope that the host doesn't think that this is any newfound information that he just provided us with, because I would have started by speaking about the move from the Industrial Revolution and the Industrial Society to the Information Society to the Knowledge Society. So speaking about moving from donkey carts to horses and cars, sir, there's no newfound information. It's all in the societies.
Honorable Member, please have a seat. Honorable Member from the Government, please continue.
Thank you. I think the opposition leader is just trying to throw me off because I was saying I was referring to the public, assuring members of the public, not the Honorable House. As I continue, Mr. Speaker, it is important that we teach things such as financial literacy. It is important that we include subjects that are not, as the Prime Minister said, known in society, such as law and to become a doctor, medicine. We need to teach subjects that children are interested in. We need to allow students to do these subjects that they are passionate in, because when we look at our society, there is a growing stigma that some subjects are not as important as others. When you tell a child that, oh, where would you study art? What are you going to do with that? Why are we telling our students that, Mr. Speaker? When we look up in this honorable chamber, what do we see? Look at this beautiful artwork inside of here, and we would tell students that art is not important in this country in 2022. Mr. Speaker, these things need to be expressed, and they need to be expressed throughout primary education, because it is time enough that we expand the common interest examination to test students on more than just English and maths. How is it that after 7 years, we teach children social sciences, we teach children music, art, history, and yet when they get in class 4, we drop these subjects and focus mainly on maths and English? It is time that we stop this, Mr. Speaker. Moving forward, we must also look at how we want our schools to prepare our children for the future. The primary school is an agent of socialization. It teaches children the attitudes, values, and actions that are appropriate for this society. So when the government says that we are relaxing the traditional dress codes, Mr. Speaker, and allowing for students to wear their hair how they want to in schools, Mr. Speaker, that is allowing the children to know that these are the values that we stand for in this country. Going for, as a republic, Mr. Speaker, we must identify ourselves and point out what is it that we want to stand for. We must teach
history, not only of Barbados and independence, but how it came about. We must teach political science within our schools, Mr. Speaker. How can we have people in our country who do not know how Parliament operates? These things.
Honourable member, at what point do you raise?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I raise on a point of order, Mr. Speaker. The honourable member is misleading the House because he's not speaking about the teaching of political science in our schools, but he clearly doesn't understand that the curriculum is already structured to have social studies and civics, in part of which is simplified social sciences. Please understand the system in which you're educated in.
Well, if the honourable member had that opportunity, I did not. So if some schools are teaching it, I would again refer to the resolution, which says the equal treatment of students and all subjects, which means that all students get equal opportunity to learn these things within school. Mr. Speaker, as I continue, we must reimagine what our school system looks like. As I was mentioned earlier, moving to electric vehicles, we must allow the institution to be the body, the chassis of the vehicle, the wheels, the economy, the battery or power source, our culture, and the interior parts of the vehicle. Let them be the students, the teachers, and the education officers, so that as we move into the 21st century, we can truly say that we are preparing our students for the future, that we are creating a more inclusive society.
Honourable member, you have 1 minute remaining.
Yes, sir, I am wrapping up. That we are creating a more inclusive society, and that every single student in this country has the opportunity, regardless of their background, to reach high levels. And with that, Mr. Speaker, I am obliged.
Thank you, honourable member. Honourable member from the opposition, Kaylin Alim, you now have the floor.
Today we are here to discuss the education system in Barbados and the changes that need to be made. We say time and time again that the children are the future of this country, but yet the path to get to this future is dim. And the resolution that the government has presented here today does not lighten this path anymore. I advise the government to go back to the drawing board and bring a new resolution to do something for these children. Now, something stood out to me in this resolution, where it states, in a significant minority of students consistently scoring below 30% on the Barbados Secondary School entrance examination. And I ask, what will we tell these children year and year after? This system is not fair because it's like asking a fish and a monkey to climb the same tree. The notion that we will, and as the Prime Minister said, the notion that we will continue to write off the children at the age of 10 and 12 and 11 is the greatest strategy of a post-independence Barbados, as she said during the swearing ceremony of the new government at the State House. It has to go, we have to get rid of it completely. A solution that we can use the CPEA, the Caribbean Permit Exit Assessment, offered by the Caribbean Examination Council, which will count for 80% of the overall grade and the other 20% from school-based assessments will be done over a 2-year period. The CPEA is better than the Barbados Secondary School entrance examination, seeing as it not only tests math and English, but also includes in the curriculum science and social studies. We can also imagine some of the schools in our society, where these schools focus on catering to the soft skills of the students that attend these schools, but also giving them the option of having classes they were to teach math and English so that these students will still be able to get a job after they finish their secondary education. In conclusion, we need to do something, and we need to do it now, because as a very prominent activist of this country, who I have the honor to be speaking in front of this morning, the system has flawed the young people. And it has flawed my parents' generation, it is flawing my generation, and it will not allow it to outflaw the future generations of this country. I oblige.
Thank you, honourable member from the opposition. I would like to acknowledge the presence of the Honourable Corey Lane, Minister of Parliament, the Parliamentary Secretary in the Minister of the People Empowerment and Elder Affairs. We are very grateful to have you be a part of our discussion. It is essential that the members and the leader core of this island is present as these discourses continue. Also like to acknowledge the members of the Arlene School and the Deputy Principal being present in the discourse. The question is that
Mr. Speaker, I beg to move that this sitting be suspended for 15 minutes.
Sir, beg to... Sorry? Second that, a little to best. Beg to second that, sir.
Just a minor correction, major correction. It's the Alexandra School present, not the Arlene. My sincerest apologies. The question is that the Parliament be suspended for 15 minutes. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those not in favor say nay. I believe the ayes have it. Parliament is now in break for 15 minutes.
Honorable members, it is estimated that less than 30% of young people entering secondary schools in Barbados leave school with any useful qualification. Less than 30%. This is not only detrimental to our young people, but to our country. There are changes that need to be made. However, we cannot only rely on the advice from consultants who are not aware of how our system works. We need to include the main stakeholders, such as teachers, parents, students. The numbers will continue to decrease if we do not do something regarding the reform of our education system. One of the major issues being discussed as it relates to education reform is the curriculum. In particular, the fact that the current curriculum lacks real-world skills, such as time management and application of learned abilities in various situations. Often in schools, we are faced with the expectation of our young people to answer questions solely based on memory retention, which doesn't help develop critical thinking skills. Our education system needs a more inclusive curriculum, which takes into thought the diverse needs, previous experiences, personal characteristics, and interests of all learners. We also need to ensure that all students are provided equal opportunities and experiences despite any learning differences. Another issue we face today within our education system is the need for the implementation of continuous assessment along with standardized examination. Standardized examinations have been used in Barbados for over 30 years. But as times change, we need to recognize that it also could...
Honorable member, I'd just like to ask you to allow the member of the government side to just have a few more moments to concretize her statement.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable member from government, continue.
We need to recognize that although the standardized examination is effective, there's also a series of issues that comes along with it. We need to take a look at the possibility of inaccuracy in these tests. Due to the high amounts of stress and pressure that are placed on students to perform to a certain high standard, pressure and stress compromise these students who face issues with their anxiety, especially when they're placed in situations where they're in a strange, unfamiliar environment.
Honorable member from the opposition, will you now make your statement? At what point do you raise?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I raise on a point of order. The honorable member is misleading the House, and she has several inaccuracies in her statements that she's laying here in this chamber. And she's speaking about inaccuracies of examinations on the day, but she, however, has come and spoken to the implementation of continuous assessments. And continuous assessments already exist. We have the criterion reference test done in Infants B and Class 2. We have the criterion reference test in social studies and integrated science in the primary school system done in Class 3. Please varnish yourselves with current affairs and the information of our system. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, honorable member. Honorable member from government, continue.
I'd like to thank the honorable member for raising that point. However, I'd like to clarify that I was referring only to the common entrance examination. Continuing. These students cannot be assessed correctly because of these various situations that they're placed in. Strange environments, anxiety, stress. How are they supposed to be properly assessed? Continuous assessment helps students become aware of their own abilities and supports the idea of improving overall marks by focusing on their weaknesses. In our neighboring island, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, instead of the common entrance exams, students sat the CPEA, or Caribbean Primary Exit Assessment. Results showed an increase in overall pass rate by 22%. The results went from 55.74% during the use of the common entrance to 78.08% after implementing the use of the CPEA. Many schools in St. Vincent witnessed an increase in these pass rates. This is because the CPEA provides use of continuous assessment along with a final exam to determine a student's marks. We are not proposing to remove standardized examination entirely. We are asking to adopt a 60-40 ratio between on-the-day examinations and formative continuous assessment. We need to look at implementing a similar strategy to our neighbors. There's proof that lies within these statistics. This is a solution to a problem that we have right now. In conclusion, Mr. Speaker, we need to address some of the major problems within our education system, identify what is not working, and provide suitable solutions. Introducing a more inclusive curriculum would be a step in the right direction. But unfortunately, that is not our only issue, and we have many more topics that need to be discussed and addressed. Doing this could potentially create larger benefits for our young people. Not young people in Australia, not young people in North America, our own Barbadian young people. Creating a more generally inclusive curriculum and implementing continuous assessment along with the usual method of standardized examination are ways to help improve our system. We need to think about the future. What needs to be done to improve our current system? Building on what we already have, as well as contributing new ideas, we can provide a better future for the growth and well-being when it relates to the education of all students. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Honourable Member Zara Spencer. Honourable Member from the Opposition, Maya Spooner, you now have the floor.
Members, Speaker, good afternoon. As I listen to my fellow oppositions on this side, as well as the government, it is clear that we all understand the importance of education. It's like oxygen. We need oxygen to breathe, and we need education to survive. Even though members on the other side understand the importance of education, there are some who haven't fully grasped the ramifications of poor education policies, which can affect current and future generations. How can we be properly or completely be educated if there are issues in the educational system that need to be addressed? Much emphasis is placed on math, English, and the sciences. And when it comes to the non-traditional subjects such as history, social studies, Spanish, etc., not much importance or value is placed on these disciplines. These forgotten areas add flavor and spice to life. If everyone aspires to be a doctor or a lawyer, how can other roles in society be filled? For instance, we need to eat, so we need farmers to produce crops. We need to wear clothes, so we need tailors to make clothes. We have architects and engineers, which build our homes, cars, and other technologies. And according to the Prime Minister of Barbados in a press conference in January 2022, if Barbados is to be a confident nation with confident people, it will require a change in the way that we educate our children, end quote. That is why it is important and integral that we introduce non-traditional subjects for our human development. For that reason, it is important to understand that every child has different learning styles, different challenges and personalities. For example, a child who is a visual or a tactile learner, based on this, a teacher will provide a lesson based on this learning style, and the teacher will bring in 5 apples and tell the child to take away 2, instead of blatantly telling the child 5 take away 2 is 3. Another aspect to add to the education policy is adding diagnostic testing. This allows the teachers to identify and be made aware of the issues that students may have, such as dyslexia or ADHD, just to name a few. So teachers will know how to instruct their lesson in a way that they can deliver their information in a comprehensible and impactful manner. Diagnostic testing should be tested in various stages in a child's educational life, as not all students manifest issues right away. In order to have educational treatment and education of students, as well as creating a more inclusive curriculum, we need to ensure that our teachers are ready and equipped for these changes. We need to make sure that our teachers are ready and willing to continuously improve the way that they teach. That is why teachers should be provided with a teacher's plan, and by this teacher's plan, they would instruct their lesson based on the class that they have, as well as feedback. Feedback ensures that the delivery of information is clear and impactful as possible. Teaching isn't just academics. It involves the emotional side as well, and that is important too. Teachers should have a basic understanding in social psychology as well as child and adolescent psychology. This would help the teachers develop methods and strategies in order to have a great lesson, whether it is visual, kinetically, or audio, and much more. We need to be more particular with the teachers that we choose, as there are several teachers with negative attitudes and only care about the money and copious amount of vacation. So that's why it is crucial that we select teachers who are genuine and kind and have a love for teaching. Thank you, and I am obliged to you.
Making a correction in relation to the Alexander School, it is their head of department present, not their deputy principal. I'd also like to take this moment to acknowledge the presence and the wisdom and the experience of our judges, Ms. Sophia Skeet, Ms. Gloria Haynes, and Mr. Ronald Bullen. We give a tremendous amount of thanks for the amount of work they've put in ensuring that we arrive at this level and then soar even higher. And we hope that even as the proceedings continue, we are all marked fairly. Next, the member of government.
Mr. Speaker, honorable
Ms. Kayla Boyce, you now have the floor.
Sorry. Mr. Speaker, honorable members, colleagues, good afternoon. The youth of Barbados are the future, so let's focus on them. Change needs to happen with the education system. Children are not learning and understanding material that is taught. Let's all just give that a thought. Before I begin speaking about my points, I'm going to stress to us why education reform is so important. Every human being that is born has amazing potential, but they can never fully utilize that potential if a human does not have access to a high-quality education or the correct technologies that will help connect a person to valuable knowledge and information. Potential starts with the human mind. Every bit of valuable information a person can store in their memories increases their potential. Education is a human right, and high-quality education needs to be a top priority. I know we've talked about education reform for a long time. I know. But let's not make this another one of those times. Let's stop talking the talk and let us finally walk the walk. And the first step to doing so is by providing solutions, which the government has provided in this resolution. Now, there are a lot of solutions, but the one I shall be focusing on is CPD programs. Now, what is CPD? Continuous Professional Development. Continuous professional development is the processes and learning activities that professionals undertake to enhance their skills, knowledge, expertise, and competence. It records what professionals learn, experience, and imply in their...
Honorable member, at what point do you raise?
I stand on a point of order. The other side made it clear that I was reading, but I would also like to make it clear that their member is reading. Her phone is in her hand, and she's very clearly reading, looking up and down at every sentence. So may I please ask that she stops reading?
Thank you, honorable member of the opposition. A reminder to the host, you may refer to your notes, but please do not refer to them copiously.
Thank you. I will continue. Instead of being reactive and passive, teachers who engage in continuous professional development become passive and apply the newly acquired skills in their fields. In continuous professional development programs, they do things such as workshops, online training, or e-learning courses. I would now like to explain the importance of CPD programs for teachers. Number one, they can equip their students for the future. Let's change it. The future and technology is rapidly changing every single day, and the students of today will need to be equipped with the necessary skills to deal with this world, such as new technical skills, people skills. And teachers play a crucial role in preparing their students for that brave new world. Number two, they can discover new teaching strategies. With continuous professional development, teachers discover new teaching strategies and ways. This also helps them identify their students' needs and apply the necessary strategies to deal with them. This also gives them the opportunity to identify their own struggles and issues and improve and change their style to be more effective. And number three, contribute to better student outcomes. CPD allows teachers to be up to date with the latest trends and the best practices in their field. It also helps them in crafting personalized and practical lessons for their students. Like I stated before, it's not like CPD programs do not exist in Barbados. They do. It's just that they're not heard about a lot. And what we need to do is improve the programs that have already been implemented by approaching them with different and new effective ways. Now, how to make CPD programs effective for teachers? Number one, keep them invested and engaged. We have heard about how students learn things differently, but teachers also learn things differently. Some teachers might be visual learners, or they might learn better by taking notes. So we should try to use various methods while conducting these programs and observe the engagement level and the interest of the educators to make sure that they are also invested and engaged. And number three, create personalized programs for them if possible.
Honorable member, at what point do you raise?
Mr. Speaker, sir, I read on the point of order, sir. The member is still reading, and if she continues, the opposition document the House, please. Thank you.
Honorable member of government, will you be willing to make the notes that you refer to a document of the House?
Yes, please.
Okay, continue to refer to the notes briefly. Please do not continuously read from it. This is a discussion of the House, and we'd love to hear you speak to us, and not the phone. Thank you very much. Continue.
Yes, thank you. I will start reading from the House, but I would just also like to state before I continue, I have statistics after this, so I will be referencing to my notes. Continuing on.
Thank you.
Number three, create personalized programs for them if possible. We can try and get in touch with different teachers and ask them different questions that influence their job, such as the class they teach, the subjects they teach, and if they're happy with their current job position. I'm now reading some statistics. More than 80% of teachers report that their training had a positive effect on their teaching practices. The characteristics of training those teachers found most impactful are those based on strong subject and curriculum content.
Honorable member,
Collaboration.
you have 2 minutes remaining.
Thank you. I'm wrapping up. Collaboration and incorporation of active learning and collaborative approaches to instruction. I got all of this information from the OECD. Once again, I'm about to read a quote. Mahatma Gandhi said that the future depends on what we do in the present. So let us make a change now so we can shape our future to be a bright and successful one. Before I finally conclude, I would like to briefly repeat the importance of CPD for teachers. Number 1, they can help equip their students for the future. Number 2, they can discover new teaching strategies. And number 3, it can help contribute to better student outcomes. In conclusion, I strongly support this resolution. Mr. Speaker, I oblige to you.
Thank you, Honorable Member of Government. At this point in time, I would like to ask Honorable Member Sarit Barker from the opposition to please take the floor.
Honorable Mr. Speaker, sir, honorable members, invited guests, I rise to speak on the topic of educational reform today. Prior to independence, yes, we need to go back to where it all began, because this educational system that we have today is inherited. It's not ours. It's inherited. It's a part of our colonial legacy. Prior to independence, colonial education system sought to reinforce social and economic hierarchies, and I'll tell you what I mean by that. The education has been used time and time again to maintain the status quo, to keep the working class as the working class, and to ensure the elevation of a select few. We need to make sure that we don't do the same in post-independent Barbados. Mr. Speaker, the resolution speaks to the creation of a more inclusive curriculum and that all students and subjects are treated equally. Mr. Speaker, that blatantly ignores the fact that education has been a vehicle to the creation of a productive workforce. Mr. Speaker, that blatantly ignores the fact that there's a clear demarcation in the treatment of certain professions within the society. Mr. Speaker, I am talking about the difference in the treatment between the sanitation worker and the doctor. And don't tell me that it doesn't exist, because I see it every day. I am talking about the difference, Mr. Speaker, between the barber and the lawyer within the society. I am speaking of the difference between the carpenter, Mr. Speaker, and the politician within the society. Mr. Speaker, classism and capitalism pervade our society, but yet we expect our educational system to be free of it, be free of this poison. How? How? School is not a simulation, Mr. Speaker. It will reflect the real world. We cannot advocate for skills on one hand because it sounds good. It sounds great to say. It sounds perfect, actually. Yeah, we can open vocationals, we can open skills training. People can go there and learn skills and then contribute back to society. But no, that's not how it's been working. No, it has not been working like that. Mr. Speaker, for an inclusive curriculum, we beg for an inclusive curriculum, then surround skills with negative connotations. Mr. Speaker, sir, skills should not be seen as for less academic students or students who do not excel in academia. Mr. Speaker, sir, your inability to grasp chemistry should not consign you to poverty. Mr. Speaker, sir, here in Barbados, if you are taking up a skill, is almost as if it's the last resort, or you're taking this up because you have not been able to attain certain certificates. Mr. Speaker, I do not agree with that. Mr. Speaker, I cannot. It is burdensome upon me. Everybody cannot be academically inclined. Further, me being academically inclined should not prevent me from accessing skills training. But these are societal realities, Mr. Speaker, sir. And I'll leave you, for example, the greatest of them all. A couple of years ago, I would have attended an institution here in Barbados, and I'll call the name. I'm not so kind as my honorable member. I'm calling names here. I remember a couple of years ago when I was in attendance at Harrison College. Also attended there was an absence of food and nutrition, a food and nutrition program. Yes, you're hearing me clearly. Food and nutrition, everyone in here eats, right? Yeah. And it was at that point, Mr. Speaker, sir, that it became clear to me that society didn't need any chef. Society only needs scientists. Mr. Speaker, sir, in one breath, the resolution speaks to all students being treated equally. And in the next, proposes the greater adoption of technology within the system. Mr. Speaker, I stand here today to say that technology, the further implementation of technology within this system would only serve to further widen the gap between the poor student and the rich student. And I'll explain what I mean too. I like to get down into examples, raw stats, that kind of way. I am talking about the gap that meant little Johnny couldn't get the additional lessons he needed to develop, or the breakfast he required before school so he could focus well. Melvin's family was able to provide the necessary support. So it's not everybody's problem. So we don't see it as one. The gap.
Member, at one point do you raise?
I raise on a point of order. This honorable member is misleading the House. If I recall correctly, one of our honorable members on the government side spoke earlier today to that point about the technology gap. And she clearly stated just how that gap is closer to being closed than ever. So, honorable member, I ask that you refrain from misleading this honorable chamber.
Mr. Speaker, sir.
Before you continue, honorable member, you have 2 minutes, but I'll allow you a couple more seconds as well.
Mr. Speaker, no, I raised to comment, I wanted to rebut that earlier point, but I hadn't spoken as yet, so I was quite unable. But I will clarify now. No, these are real examples. The thing the pandemic showed us that the gap is very much alive and well. The gap has not been bridged. The gap has only been widened. Every day we see advancements in technology. The pockets of certain Barbadian students is not advancing. The cost of living is rising. Okay, so to continue on though, that was just in response. Continuing on. The gap meant that during the pandemic in Barbados, some students were unable to access an E-type of learning due to a lack of devices. No Wi-Fi. I could go on, Mr. Speaker, sir. And that is not to say that technology is all bad, but we see the direction the world is headed. But emphasis must be placed on equality of opportunity and not keeping up with the proverbial Joneses. Talking about Finland and Singapore. This is Barbados. The reality is, Mr. Speaker, for equity to be achieved, circumstances should not be obstacles to educational success. And you said you have 2 minutes, so I'll wrap up fast. Get in there, Mr. Speaker, sir. You can see that you can tell I'm passionate. Mr. Speaker, sir, despite not being in agreement with a greater step towards technology within the system, that is not to say that I am not in support of the present. I am not in support of the present chalk and taught. These methods are outdated. Teachers need to be cognizant of the various learning profiles within the classroom, as well as learning preferences and learning challenges faced by students. Some children might require visual aids, some children might require movies, some children audio. Instead of catering to specific needs, there's an overemphasis, Mr. Speaker, sir, on content coverage. We want to rigidly adhere to syllabi and time frames. So instead, the emphasis is placed on teaching the curriculum instead of teaching the child. Mr. Speaker, sir,
I found it unbelievable when I recently discovered that teachers weren't mandated to continue their development. Mr. Speaker, whatever Ida may learned 30 years ago, unless she is keen on her own development, I am suggesting that she's going to teach that 30 years today, 30 years from now, if she'd be so lucky. And that should not be, Mr. Speaker. I am suggesting that teachers' continuous development be mandatory and that all teachers should have to go to regular workshops. Mr. Speaker, the resolution also speaks to the integration of pupils with special needs into the mainstream school system.
Honourable Member, your time is now completed. Thank you for your passionate delivery, but Parliament must continue. Please have a seat. Thank you very
much
much.
obliged, sir.
The Honourable Member from Government, Leanna Griffith, you now have the floor.
Good morning, Mr. Speaker. Good morning, honorable members of the House. Now, we are here today to discuss education reform. What is education? Education is a process of training, development of knowledge, skills, mind, and character. Now, education is a precious commodity which must be dealt with precisely and delicately. Education shapes the future of this country. Therefore, we must ditch traditional learning. Every day, we take a step closer to diversity in this world. Every day, we as humans mature. Why has the education system failed to evolve throughout the years? The education system is the building blocks of life, or what we like to call the building blocks of life. This is where we lay the foundation of life. Therefore, there must be implemented structures which aid in the acquisition of lifelong knowledge and perpetual skills. For example, why do we have students who leave secondary school and graduate without knowledge of knowing how to do an NAS, filing for taxes, signing up for a bank account, knowing how to sign up for loans, etc.? This is simply unacceptable. Now, if you would take a look at the resolution, last section, subsection A, which states, the creation of a more inclusive curriculum which promotes lifelong learning, teaches essential skills which are critical for our life in the real world, and provides freedom of education for our students whose passions lie in the pursuit of non-traditional subjects. Now, Mr. Speaker, I propose that we implement not only money management classes, which help students learn how to budget in everyday life, but we also need to implement a credit card scheme in secondary schools. Why do we train students in believing that as soon as you leave secondary school, you're now an adult, going to the adult world? We have taught you nothing in aiding day-to-day life in the adult world, but go into the adult world. With this credit card scheme, it implements structure and teaches students responsibility, wise decision-making as well, in where to spend their money, where to invest, how to not spend their money, what should they invest their money into, etc. For example, the Barbados Thrift Club. They are very successful in this. And this can also help students in earning like points, merit, stuff like that in secondary schools, depending on how they do in schools. Now, my second suggestion would be talent development classes as well. As we all know, every student is not a STEM student, and some students need a little push in their talents. Now, we will implement music, culinary arts, architecture, cosmetology, arts and craft, woodwork, metalwork, and provide accredited certificates for such. We all cannot be doctors, lawyers, or nurses, and we all know this. So this is why implementing the talent development classes would be very essential to our tertiary education system. Thirdly, I would like to propose an entrepreneurship scheme in schools where we would grant the capital to students with a 10% interest rate, which goes back into the school system. Now, these three suggestions that I previously stated would be incorporated into the HFLE programs in schools. Because let's face it, HFLE is not a subject which is seriously acknowledged in schools. Well, I'm not sure about your secondary schools, but mine. And this entrepreneurship scheme would better teach students how to sell, because as we know, you can't sell snacks in secondary schools. And this is an issue that I find, very dear to my heart and I'm very passionate about, because why do we confiscate students' resources? Why do we confiscate students' goods and candy and snacks like that? We should instead support what they aspire to be. Because okay.
Honorable member, at what point do you raise?
I stand on a point of order. The honorable member has clearly lost her way in her notes, and she does not appear to be reading any quotes or academic articles or studies. I please ask that she stop reading.
Honorable member from the government, will you be willing to make your notes accessible to the chambers? Continue to refer to your notes, but please, again, as a reminder, do not copiously read or completely refer to your notes. They are a guiding point from which you will then speak, but do not read it verbatim.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable member, you have 2 minutes remaining.
Thank you as well. Continuing, this entrepreneurship scheme would better build students in the knowledge of knowing how to better have their own businesses during school. Because instead of confiscating their goods, as I stated previously, this shows them, students don't come from the same background. Everyone comes from different backgrounds. And not every student is able to get school money and certain stuff like that. So when you confiscate their goods, which they obviously saved to purchase in schools, this not only shows lack of support.
Honorable member, at what point do you raise?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I raise on a point of order. I can no longer sit down and continue to watch the honorable member mislead this House time after time after time. From the contributions that she's laid in this House, from the entrepreneurship scheme that she's alluding to don't existing, to encouraging illegal activities in the school-based environment.
Just a slight correction there. In her relation to that particular part, it was about entrepreneurship schemes within schools, not the overall youth entrepreneurship scheme.
Mr. Speaker, there are entrepreneurship schemes within schools. There is a $20 challenge that has existed for more than 6 years in this country. There's also a grave concern, Mr. Speaker, that the honorable member continues to slavishly follow her notes, but then she is delivering ill information to the citizens of Barbados. That is ill will to the people. And I will ask the honorable member that when she comes to the House, that the eye contact that she makes with us on the other side be one of just and reasonable measure, because she's looking at us wizzy-wizzying when we're trying to literally tell her, like, please make sure that she's giving credible information. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, honorable member. First of all, I would not encourage you to distract the honorable member as she is giving her speech. Second of all, it is important that we understand that there is a measure of respect that we should have for each member of the Youth Parliament of Barbados. When we bring our ideas to this table, we not just represent our own particular thoughts, but imagine some other student who is not present in this particular chambers mirroring that thought. Respect should be shown across the board. Honorable member, as this is your first time being in this chambers, and I welcome your participation. It's been a good effort. Please do not continue to refer from your notes going forward. Carry on smartly.
Honorable member, I would urge the opposition that when you stand on a point of order, please have some substance and logic to your points. Now, as I previously stated, the entrepreneurship scheme needs to be implemented more accessible in schools. I am not sure which school you went to, but it was not at mine. Now, as I continue, this scheme needs to be more advertised, and it trains students who aspire to be entrepreneurs how it is better structured. The three of my suggestions shall be implemented into the HFLE programs in secondary schools, and it helps students in knowing lifelong skills. Thank you very much. I am obliged to you.
Thank you, Honorable Member. Honorable Member of the Opposition. Dante Harvey. Honorable Member, you now have the floor.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Good afternoon, Mr. Speaker, honorable members. I rise today to make a viable contribution to this debate on education reform. But, sir, first, before I begin, I'm hearing the honorable members on that side mentioning the teachers, sir. And once again, I raise this document, the Education Act. If you want to implement it for the teachers, you must implement it for yourself. You must implement it for the workers of the Ministry of Education, sir. But keep on moving forward. Having an education reform committee, our Ministry of Education, who lacks vision, who lacks the ability to make change, but only to copy another broken system, will be detrimental for me, those in the gallery, and those to come. Mr. Speaker, we are more focusing on the formal factor of education, the curriculum. Sir, what about the informal, the Girl Guides Association, the Barbados Cadet Corps, the Red Cross, the aspects that are teaching our young people the social and soft skills of life, sir? Sir, we need to integrate and balance these stuff into our school system, that when a child learns math and English, they also learn how to cook on the outside, sir. Cadets has taught me that. Sir, we need not to only focus on math, English, social studies, sir, but we need to focus on life and what is beyond the school. A lady by the name, I don't want to call her name, but she alluded to something and I agree. The school in St. George, Constant to be exact, is on the right, sir. The St. George Secondary School has shown persons that although you are not smart enough to attend the old schools, we can produce farmers. We can produce carpenters, we can produce masons, sir. That is the model in which we need to follow, and that is the model in which the government of the day, the government of Barbados, the Minister of Education, the Chief Education Officer needs to follow, sir. Sir, I was trying not to go that far into calling out persons in my speech, sir, but it has to happen. This is a serious matter, sir. We are here today to debate education reform in Barbados. Our voices need to be heard. Whether we're government or opposition, the government of the day, the Ministry of Education needs to take young person's voice and to take it into consideration. We are stakeholders of education, sir. We are the pillars of education.
Order. Continue.
Mr. Speaker, sir, the stakeholders of education are the persons who sit in the Ministry of Education for a day and do not answer the phone. The stakeholders are the persons who teach. The stakeholders are the children who go to school. Mr. Speaker, would you believe that a teacher in secondary school has to buy a weight marker? I can't believe it. But then when you go through the estimates, funds are allocated to foolishness. Mr. Speaker.
Order.
Mr. Speaker, I can behave, Mr. Speaker. But I can't. This is a serious matter, sir. Sir, if the teachers has lost faith in the government, the children can get teach bad, sir. Sir, if the government does not communicate with our teachers, the children will get teach bad, sir. Sir, we sit And we hear all these press conferences on education and what the ministry is doing. But sir, when you ask the teacher, y'all had input in that, they went and had a meeting. So how can a minister in their right mind sit and say we have communicated with everyone? Sir, it's like the resolution. The government communicate with the opposition. Sir, the government ain't communicate with the opposition and bring fluff before you and before this honorable chamber, sir. Sir, I am proud because in another place the word revamp was used. And today they not hear it, so I'm proud. The government has understand that the system is broken and the system needs to be fixed. Sir, this system does not need no, as the government does do, putting one thing because something working. They got to fix what is not working before you add something else. And that is why this education system is the way it is today, because governments after governments have added before they fix. Sir, governments after governments...
Honorable member, you have 1 minute.
Sir, that's all I need. Sir, governments after governments...
2 minutes. 2 minutes.
Sir, governments after governments have neglected the church girls and boys brigades that build the foundation of social skills among us, sir. Sir, governments after governments have neglected the small man, sir. Sir, when school was to be online, sir, it's subject to correction. You know, sometimes we make mistakes. Government acted because the private schools made noise in front of government headquarters, but they did not act when the public schools made a point, sir. Sir, we have to stop with this foolishness. Sir, calm down. You can't use incorrect language in the house. Sir, if public schools in Barbados can follow the mantra of the private schools, the education system will be good. Sir, in closing, sir, private schools in Barbados, along with the St. George Secondary School, have outshined schools like Harrison College, the famous Combermere School, the Lodge School, sir. Sir, these schools have tradition of weeks, but those schools have tradition and legacy to move on. Mr. Speaker, I'm obliged to you.
Thank you, honorable member, for that spirited presentation. I'd now like to ask member of the government, Elisha Eiffel, you now have the floor.
I would like to begin by saying that I am very grateful to be here. This is a matter that is very dear to my heart, being that I have seen my mother and my father work closely in this field. My grandmother. My mother was a volunteer with NCSA, the National Council on Substance Abuse, and they went into schools and they would have taught on different aspects that is very similar to what the HFLE program would be like. They talk on drugs, substance abuse. They talk on violence, domestic violence. I would have seen my mother pull some students aside to speak to them because of the impact that it was having on them. And I had my own input, but now I am very grateful to be here to have the opportunity to lend a voice to this national topic. I also know that after working with the NCSA, my mother would have moved and she would have went to Partners That Care International. This is an organization that provides educational opportunities and academic opportunities for students that are more musically inclined. I believe that this is a good example of what we are seeking to do and what this resolution is seeking and proposing that we do. How we move forward, I believe that we must not only implement this system for musically inclined students, but I believe that we should continue to add additional classes in the HFLE program, which is what I am mainly speaking on today.
in terms of money management, financial literacy, entrepreneurship, and intrapreneurship, understanding the difference between intrapreneurship and entrepreneurship. All of these are things that I believe should be taught in our schools. Yes, I understand that one of the major concerns with educational reform is that we have been in this system so long, it's going to cost a lot to fix. But I would like to take a quote from a well-known author and lecturer, Andy Hargreaves, and he says, "A successful school has to engage all the people, all the powers, and all the capabilities within it. We are not only going to talk to the students about it, but we're going to talk to the teachers about it. We are going to talk to the janitors, the school meal workers." My grandmother was a school meal worker. And as a school meal worker, and me, I would have went with her on certain occasions to school, and I would have seen her having more respect. The students have more respect sometimes for the school meal worker than the actual teacher. And why is that? It's because she showed that same respect to them. What was given was received. As it comes to funding these proposals and these motions to go forward, I believe that we need to utilize the educational grants that are out there. Yes, it may be costly, but the fact is that we cannot afford to continue to allow the talent that Barbados is producing to leak into other people's economies, other countries' economies. I think that we need to create a system that encourages our students to stay here, and encourages the citizens of Barbados to continue to contribute to Barbados, developing Barbados. And that is what...
I believe you are an able and strapping young man, and you can project your voice. Kindly stand and address the House chambers. Great remarks so far. I'd like you to continue in confidence. You go ahead, sir.
One such grant that we could utilize is the KLI grant, the Knowledge, Learning, and Innovation grant. This grant can be offered this grant is offered from the US, it's US based, but it's offered to many countries, and the grant amount can go up to a US $1 million, which honestly would do a lot for some of the smaller programs that we already have. I do believe and I agree that we do have programs that reach out to certain aspects in certain areas, but like my colleagues would have said, I believe that there is a lack of awareness of such programs. Accessibility. There are some programs, like what have been said earlier, there are some programs that are available in other schools that are not available other places, and like was said again, sometimes it has to do with the fact that we have schools that we depend on to produce a certain caliber of student, or a certain type of student, and we do not take into consideration that other schools have something to contribute. I believe that if we were to sit down and we were to have meetings, have deliberations with the teachers, people that would have worked in the education system, who, like me.
Honorable member, at what point do you raise?
Mr. Speaker, sir, I stand on a point of order. The honorable member is misleading this part. The honorable member is misleading this house. He said that the educational system here was dependent upon certain schools to produce the quota, whilst not paying attention to some of the other schools. But, Mr. Speaker, sir, the problem here is not that there's a reliance on certain schools to fill the quota. I can highlight Springer, for example, and St. Leonard's, where every Saturday, these schools are burst to the brim. So this suggested elitism is misleading. Because I went on to say, I really want to add that.
Thank you, honorable member. Honorable member from the government side, you have 2 minutes remaining.
Okay, I am wrapping up now. I would like to say that, yes, sometimes I don't wish to retract my statement, first off. I would like to say that we do depend on certain schools, and we do depend on certain qualifications that may not necessarily be, that may not necessarily give rise or clearly identify certain traits. We have such programs, yes, in all schools. We have woodwork programs in all schools, but some schools do it a little better. And that's what I meant by we depend on certain schools to produce certain students. For example, we have this, we would not expect, you don't hear certain, if I come and I talk a certain way, you wouldn't expect me to be from somewhere. And that is not a problem, that we highlight very often, but I feel like that stigma needs to be taken away from schools. I feel like to go back and take my little time remaining, I'll go back and go back to the money management. I believe that money management, like my partner would have said, money management, financial literacy, entrepreneurship, all these things should be taught on a broader basis. Access to these type of programs should be quicker and more available. The advertisement and the incorporation of it into our school system, not outside programs, but into our actual school system, the actual system that we are seeking to change here, should be recognized. We take a lot of time in school, and I feel like some of the time that we take in school, that students spend in school, should be dedicated to this area. And with that, I oblige.
Thank you, member from the government. Member from the opposition, Mr. Alexander O'Neill, you now have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It's an honor to be here, and I thank you for giving me the time to share my thoughts on this debate. We are here to discuss education reform, and the resolution that the government brought before us attempts to do that. But I honestly think it falls short of that objective, Mr. Speaker. In 1996, the then leader of the Labour Party and former Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, the Right Honourable Tony Blair, said at the annual conference that he has 3 top priorities: education, education, education. Another quote that is associated with Mr. Blair is, education is the best economic policy. Education must be employed by...
Just one moment, honorable member. I'd like to again encourage everyone, please have your phone on silent or turn it off. This is a process in which democracy is taking place, and I'd like encourage everyone to have the utmost respect for the process of Parliament and have your phones on silent. Thank you so much. Continue, Minister from Opposition.
Education must be employed by the state to create wealth for the state and the individual. In that light, this resolution lacks the strategic objectives in doing so, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the solutions of this resolution are not substantive, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the solutions that they also provide are solutions that are already implemented in the current education system, Mr. Speaker. So what has been added, Mr. Speaker? Nothing, Mr. Speaker. In addition, this resolution has no financial structure to fund these solutions. Whenever a government is serious about solving a problem, it has to fold into its plan a financing system. And if these solutions are to manifest themselves, where is the money coming from, Mr. Speaker? I would like to recommend some solutions to this resolution. And one of my recommendations are establishing endowment funds for the educational institutions. Some may ask, what is an endowment fund? An endowment fund is a portfolio of cash flow or non-cash flow assets. Equally, why an endowment fund? An endowment fund can supplement expenditure that government has already allocated to these educational institutions. In the year of 2022, the estimates state that the non-statutory and statutory estimates for this year is $570 million for the Ministry of Education, Mr. Speaker. That may seem like a lump sum of money, but really and truly, that is not efficient to properly finance these institutions and the accessory organs of them, Mr. Speaker. Equally, if these endowment funds are successful or returns are high enough, they could equally reduce the expenditure burden on central government, Mr. Speaker. How would these funds be capitalized? Government can initiate these funds with $10,000 of seed capital. That would equate to about $1 million. And that would be 105 schools across Barbados. That's secondary, primary, and nursery, and the special needs schools that have the programs that they say that don't exist, Mr. Speaker. Managing these funds. There should be an expenditure freeze for at least 5 years to give these funds at least some time to grow before any sort of liquidation. In addition to government financing as well, the private sector also has a role to play. They can generously contribute to these funds and benefit from a tax break. In addition to the private sector, you also have alumni and parents. It doesn't matter how small the contribution can be. It doesn't matter how small the contribution is. All would be welcome, Mr. Speaker. As I mentioned before about the expenditure freeze for 5 years, within that 5-year period, the schools or whoever management is appointed to manage these funds would embark on an investment journey in equity investments and debt investments. Because of the nature of these funds, you want safety. You want safety and you want stability. Given that, there is New York, there is London, there is Singapore financial markets that give us that credibility, that safety, and high yield that is necessary for these funds, Mr. Speaker. Equally, there is domestic financing as well. With these funds, the government can borrow and also invest back into the same educational policy. How is that? How is that, Mr. Speaker? When the management of these...
You have 2 minutes remaining.
When the management of these funds go about embarking on their investments, they can buy government bonds, the same government bonds that finance the government actions, can then invest in the same educational institutions. Then at the same time, the educational institutions benefit from interest payments paying back to them. So they benefit on both sides. Direct investment to the institution and also interest payments back to them. So that's a win-win scenario for these institutions, Mr. Speaker. After the first 5 years have elapsed, Mr. Speaker, they would set a target of 5% liquidation of the total fund. So to add to the allocated financing that government has already allocated for the institutions. Equally, there must be a growth target of more than 5% so that when the 5% liquidation annually going forward, that the fund is not depleted over the time period. So you would have to ensure that there's a return of equal to 5%, which would equate to a break even, or more than 5%, which would ensure growth in these funds, Mr. Speaker. And with that, Mr. Speaker, I'm obliged to you.
Thank you, Honourable Member. That was a well thought out and comprehensive economic or financial approach to the solutions. At this point in time, I would like to ask Ms. Trinity Weeks from the government to please take the floor.
Mr. Speaker, honorable members, good morning. Good afternoon, thank you. I am glad that we all can sit here today and notice that education reform needs change. Today I'm talking about, my main topic is about financial literacy, being more into the educational system. Persons might ask, why should financial literacy be a part of the educational system? That ties in with the meaning of financial literacy. Financial literacy is the ability to understand and efficiently use various types of financial skills. For instance, personal money management, budgeting, saving, and investing. It's basically the relationship that we have with money. And we can all say today that some of us don't have a good relationship with money as we think. We get it in our hands, we are quick to spend it. We're not quick to sit down and say, well, let me look forward to the future. Let me look to see what the future holds. Why? Why financial literacy should be implemented in schools? The lack of knowledge and the consequences. Persons don't know that when they have debt and they die, their debt don't die. Their debt is still there. Then their family has to take on the responsibility of paying off that debt, which is something very serious. If you don't know these things,
Leader of the opposition, at what point do you raise?
Sir, I raise on a point of order. I believe that the honorable member is misleading the House just a little bit with this whole thing about debt doesn't die. Just the other day, a gentleman told me that a certain company, his mother died and left debt with that company, and they wanted him to pay. But the debt did die. He took that debt certificate to the company and said, look, I don't know who paying this, but it ain't me. And that debt was killed. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Member. Honorable Member of Government, would you like to retract your statement?
no, please, I'll move forward. Just leave people. Also, another problem with financial literacy should be implemented is the fact that persons don't file for insurance. Persons depend on NIS, and I understand that persons after they get their paycheck, they say, well, my money already taken out for NIS. I don't need to go and look for I don't need to go and look for a private insurance, which is the fault of many. We don't go and look for private insurance. We depend so much on national insurance. The percentage of persons not knowing about financial literacy is more than 50% in Barbados. And my source is Professor Dwayne Devonish. He conducted surveys, and this was a sample. 50%, more than 50% do not know financial literacy. And that's not fair, that's not right. If you don't know how to spend your money, you're going to be doing so much things. You're going to be buying a car, all sort of things. You're not going to be studying saving, investing, these things that matter in the long run. Another point is 2.7% of persons 2.7% persons have life insurance in Barbados. This source is from the Barbados Advocate. 2.7%, that is not good. Where's the at least 50%? 2.7% is little. That should be saying a lot. A lot of persons don't know how to file for insurance. This is why financial literacy needs to be taught in schools. When classes should start in primary school. I say this because persons might be like, why does a primary school child need to learn financial literacy? If a primary school child doesn't know how to count money, how are they going to spend the money? I'm not blaming anyone. When they go to a snack vendor, they don't know if that person is giving them back the right change. They are not sure if this person is giving them back the right change. This can also work by using the basic mathematics skills. This can work with taking mathematics from inside the classroom and putting it outside. Secondary schools can learn it as a basic right to life in health and family life sessions. It can be learned because finances is life. Programs for tertiary levels can go more in depth than it would in secondary and primary schools, like teaching persons how to file for a private insurance like Sagicor, teaching persons how to save, teaching persons how to budget their money, how to spend their money, and making classes more interesting for children because a lot of children don't have the attention span like some of us might. So not making the classes long and boring. Also to my closing, if we fail to prepare our youth, prepare for our youth to fail. And I do not want our youth to be failing because they did not know or they were not told how to budget their money. I don't want them to look back and be like, oh, nobody told me about filing for private insurance. Nobody taught me these stuff. I don't want children to be like that. So it's time for a change. With this matter, I am finished.
Thank you, Honorable Member from Government. Just a quick reminder, in terms of sourcing, ensure that the sources that you use come from academic or economic sources. While you had great speech alignment and good causation and whatnot, ensure that your sources are strong. Member from the opposition.
Good afternoon. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I rise on a topic that is very dear to my heart.
Caleb Brathwaite, just for the record, Caleb Brathwaite, you now have the floor.
More time.
2 seconds, continue.
Good afternoon again. Mr. Speaker, I rise on a topic that is very dear to my heart, that of educational reform. And we as a society must recognize that the time is right for educational reform and we must not let it pass. Mr. Speaker, on the onset, I want it to be known. I left secondary school with 6 CXCs. I then went to BCC and obtained an associate degree in law as well as government and political studies. I'm currently in my final year to obtain a bachelor's degree in law. And not once has the height of my hair or the style in which I wear it affected my learning ability. And people within the educational sector must understand that. Why must I cut my hair to learn? It must not go on. And I was forced to cut my hair. Not once. We must become emancipated from mental slavery and rid ourselves from that colonial mindset. Mr. Speaker, the opposition proposes that diagnostic testing be administered at the reception level because we must see if a child is suffering from dyspraxia, dyslexia, ADHD, and is at that critical juncture, we must test for that. The opposition also seeks to propose that soft and social skill teaching be done from first to second form because that research shows is at this preteen level where a child undergoes many physical and cognitive changes that you want to instill traits. And let it be known that soft and social skill teaching is only done at the St. George Secondary School, and it must be widespread. Mr. Speaker, to effectively, and I stress on effectively, reform the educational system within Barbados, the combinations exam should go. It should not remain. But the opposition do not make such statements lightly, and in that respect, the alternative would be building on the current criteria reference tests in place and implementing a 3-year assessment period started in Class 2, ending in Class 4, in which students will undergo a series of tests, testing academia, testing vocational subjects, as well as testing physical subjects, as the opposition recognized we must harness the talent of young people. Mr. Speaker, the opposition also thought it necessary that in terms of testing a child's physical abilities so that we can make more outstanding citizens like Shade Williams, Garfield Sobers. And to that extent, government must move full steam ahead and apply these changes. The rationale behind the thinking of the opposition is not to get rid of a test. You understand that tests are throughout life. What we are saying is to get rid of a test that is done once and seek to determine a child's future. We must reimagine secondary school education in this country. And to that extent, backed by the results of the criteria reference test, that would help with the allocation to secondary school. Mr. Speaker, the current allocation to secondary school is not the entire problem, because the opposition recognizes that not everyone can learn at the same pace. We understand that. Mr. Speaker, I, for one, in primary school, at my primary school, there's 4-1, 4-2, 4-3, and 4-4. I was not in 4-1. I wasn't even in 4-2. I was in 4-3, and it was because at that level, I was learning at a different pace to others, and look where I am today. Mr. Speaker, it therefore comes down to an all-society approach, getting rid of the stigmatization on where you go or where you went to school. It can no longer happen in this country. The opposition recognizes that it's not...
Order, the member is still making his statement. Continue.
The opposition recognizes that it's not an overnight approach, but he can who tries. Mr. Speaker, let it be known this is not to signal the opposition's support for the current structure and curriculum in place in schools today, because subjects that are taught in depth, like physics and biology, should not happen until the fourth form. Why should I be learning something that is so in-depth? Practical teaching should be done, and only when a child seeks to interest in specialize in that particular area should more in-depth teaching. Can you tell me, Mr. Speaker, that you have ever applied Y equals MX plus C doing day-to-day things? No. Mr. Speaker, I also seek to propose that the VARC questionnaire, which stands for the Visual, Oral, and Read and Write and Kinesthetic Guide to Learning Preferences, be administered upon each child entering secondary school, so that the educator has a comprehensive analysis of the learning style of that student. The opposition also calls for the current dismantling, destruction, getting rid of the disciplinary regime in schools today, and which this resolution has not touched on. Where is the reform for the disciplinary procedures in school? Where is it? How on earth could you, as a principal, seek to send home a child who acts out in school? Do you think that is the best way to deal with that child? Or what they do, sir, is start them in school and put them into school suspension, give them letters to care about the school, and they learn nothing of substance that day. Make it make sense. The opposition proposes that guidance counselors be increased to 2 in each secondary school and have 1 in each primary school, along with implementing a behavior intervention plan made up of best practices. The opposition also called for the formation of primary and secondary student councils. Youth inclusion is much talked about in this country and little to be seen. Students shall have a voice at the table. We get up on TV and we hear the ministers say, oh, they have consulted all the stakeholders, and the decision that it will ultimately affect the students, nothing is said to them. I have not been consulted. Have you been consulted, Mr. Speaker? Mr. Speaker, in closing, I want my honorable friends to know that we must aim for our educational system to be good, better, and the best within this modern world. And be assured, this opposition won't rest until such occurs. I am obliged to you.
Thank you, member of the opposition. At this point in time, I would like to invite Shakobi Riley. Honorable Minister, you now have the floor.
Mr. Speaker, sir, honorable colleagues, distinguished guests, good afternoon. I rise to speak on this resolution presented. Well, that was the original plan, what was in the resolution. But after hearing most of your presentations, I realize there is a key factor that is missing, and I am actually quite disappointed that it's not spoken about as yet, seeing that we're in a current crisis in this particular industry, and that would be tourism. Now, anybody that knows me knows that I am a tourism guy. Honorable Minister of Tourism and International Transport, please give me a call. Thanks. And with that being said, I see the importance of tourism education. I see the importance of having tourism integrated in our educational system. Now, before I get that deep into the tourism, let me first touch on the integration of soft skills, because it all links back. Now, we know what soft skills are, I believe, but for those who don't, by lack of education, I will state emotional intelligence, growth, mindset, ambition, focus, common sense, self-management skills, time management skills, confidence, empathy, and the list goes on. All of these are critical for personal development and to shape a respectful, peaceful, and stable society. Now, jobs, employers are actually seeking potential employees with soft skills. And unfortunately, our schools lack to provide that. They really do. So, and I mean, some of it could be demonstrated here. But this goes into also our customer service here in Barbados. And I know that everybody might not want to touch on this, but I most certainly will. Our customer service in Barbados sucks. It sucks. And tourists may come to Barbados and be like, oh, sun, sea, and sand, and I'm so glad to be here. But it sucks, it really does. The tourists, you only get proper treatment when you see a tourist. And if any of you walk into a store down Swan Street, they're not gonna treat you like how they would treat a tourist, correct? I mean, beat the table if I right, correct? Thank you. That being said, integration of soft skills is especially important in our education system. And that leads me straight into my point in developing tourism education in schools, starting from primary school level. Now, I've read the what is it? Oh God, no, not the Education Act. The Barbados Tourism Master Plan, yes, that. And in that speaks to educational tourism and tourism in education. Now, how many of you are aware of the sleeping, I'll call them sleeping, programs that are implemented by the government for tourism education? Thank you, Mr. Howell. Right, not many people are aware of it, but we have STEP, which is School Tourism Education Program, and we have TEAM, which is Tourism, Education, and Me. And these are just two of the programs that are supposed to be active in our schools that are not. Where has it gone? We implemented this in 2011 for 7 my notes all over the place, sorry. 7 secondary schools and 8 primary schools. And I'm not seeing anything happening. It's not there anymore. Why is that? Because we got a system where governments come in and they shelve they shelve programs and they shelve initiatives and they come in with their own plans and they forget about the things that are supposed to help. Beat the table louder. Because what I am speaking...
Continue, honorable member.
Pardon me?
Continue.
Okay, thanks. Right, because what I am speaking is facts.
Honorable member, you have 2 minutes remaining.
Thank you. We stand up here and we conjugate and we talk about all the different things that the education system is missing and what it is not doing, but we neglect the fact that tourism is a huge part to play because where is the majority of our income coming from? The tourism industry. And we do not teach our students enough about it. We're supposed to have this integrated in the social studies. They're supposed to be inclusive of culture and stuff. And what was happening to our Barbadian culture? How many of you in here knows that there's a national dress for our country? It seems like only one person. And that is evident of the failing system. No, it cannot go on. And these programs need to be picked back up and stuff needs to be added. Now, linkages, and it is very, very important to understand that there are linkages to, tourism works on linkage. Tourism works for everybody. And we cannot continue to build a society that decides to put tourism in a box by itself and everything else goes on about its business, because then we have the problem that we have now. Unsustainable. And how do you expect to put the tourism industry in the hands of people that don't know what they are doing? Anybody can answer that? No? Okay then, my point exactly. In here is silent. Absolutely silent. Because it's not being talked about. And everybody overlook it. But it's an important, crucial part of our industry and development as a society. Economically so as well. So I
Honourable Member, I'm
implore...
going to ask you to wrap up.
Yes, I will. I would implore that while looking at the education system, that we involve tourism. We don't have to put it at the forefront, but we need to integrate it because it is important. We are a society, we are a country that depends heavily on tourism. And no more can we sit down and say after COVID-19 to put tourism in a box by itself and look at other ways to generate money. It cannot work. It will not work, and I will not stand for it because we need to include tourism. It is an important part of our society, and we need to embrace our culture and not be Americanized. With that, I oblige.
Thank you, Honourable Member, for your remarks. Quite eye-opening. Honourable Member from the government side, Janae Herbert, you now have the floor.
Mr. Speaker, honorable members, distinguished guests, good afternoon. The good book says there is a time for everything. Mr. Speaker, honorable members, distinguished guests, now is the time for reform, for educational reform. Now is not the time to argue government versus opposition. Now is the time to argue for our youth, for our peers. Now is the time to argue for our future. Because as we speak, Mr. Speaker, time is being wasted, money is being wasted, skills are being wasted. Critical, soft, non-traditional, futuristic skills are being wasted. As we speak, Mr. Speaker, there are students dreading the up-and-coming year. There are students dreading what is to become of this academic year. The system has to change. As we speak, in a predominantly black country, our black boys are still being forced to cut or cover their hair, their precious black hair. Now, Mr. Speaker, I ask that you do not misunderstand me. I am personally a firm believer that every institution must have its rules. But I refuse to stand for texturism on a piece of paper. I refuse to stay silent when I witness and observe that these rules do not apply equally to everybody. Mr. Speaker, the system must change. No, the honorable member called this resolution a disappointment, in short. What was truly disappointing is the obvious lack of thorough analysis. What was disappointing was the obvious lack of empathy, critical thinking, deductive reasoning, and common sense in her speech. These are the things that this resolution seeks to implement in the schools, which is exactly why I urge you, honorable members, to open your eyes and see what this country needs and see what this system needs. We need an educational system, Mr. Speaker, that redefines our country's concept of intelligence, that reconstructs our country's concept of success and what is needed to be successful. We need an educational system that identifies, invests in, and maximizes the potential that I personally believe lies in every single student, in every single one of us. Mr. Speaker, we need an educational system that listens to the wisdom of visionaries. And these visionaries aren't just experts sitting at the top twiddling their thumbs.
Honourable Member, on what point do you raise?
I rise on a point of order. I believe that the honourable member is misleading the House. All I have heard, I'm not sure about y'all, is people bringing solutions to the table and just generally critically thinking about the resolution that was brought from the government and just going through it and saying and pointing out the faults in it as well as giving proper solutions. So I am not really sure where the honorable member is really coming from. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Member.
Mr. Speaker, I would like to clarify. The absence of critical thinking and deductive reasoning in particular was in relation to the points made about the resolution. It appears as though the general terms used were not thought about thoroughly, in the sense that when we use vague terms and we use general terms, it is not to create some kind of ambiguity. It is to create umbrella terms that encompass everything. This resolution is based on inclusivity, and its language is also based on such.
Honorable Member, all point of your raise.
I rise on a point of order again. The honorable member is misleading the host. It seems to be very confusing to me that she is pointing out the fact that the honorable members or a specific honorable member is being vague when they're speaking, when they're actually speaking about how vague the resolution is. So I'm not really understanding, again, what she's really saying. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Member.
Again, this may be the last time I address your points of order, but my absence and observation of the lack of critical thinking and deductive reasoning was not on the vaguity of your terms, but it was on your failure, to fully understand and try to look deeper at what the words on this resolution meant. Mr. Speaker, as I was previously saying, we need an educational system that listens to the wisdom of visionaries. And I would have said these visionaries are not just experts sitting at the top twiddling their thumbs. These visionaries are janitors, librarians, teachers, students, people within the system. Mr. Speaker, we need an educational system that understands how precious the art of teaching is and is willing to invest in the proper training and specialization of our teachers. Mr. Speaker, we not only need that, but we also need to make the teaching profession more marketable to those who have a true passion for teaching. Honorable members, finally, I would like to urge you to support the passage of this resolution, because support of this resolution is support for the success of every single student, regardless of age, race, or ability. Support of this resolution, Mr. Speaker, is support for the success of every aspect of our future, because the students of today are the leaders of tomorrow. And on that note, Mr. Speaker, I'm very much obliged.
Thank you, Honorable Member. Madam Prime Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. When I began this morning, I said that, I was excited to be here, I was happy to be here. And I didn't think that I could have gotten any more happier today, but I actually am. It makes me so happy to be in a room filled with these brilliant minds as we heard their contributions as it relates to this topic that is of high importance in this country. And I think from hearing everyone's contribution, we can come to the conclusion that it's time now for change. Right? I want to say again that education is just not about learning math and English. It goes beyond that. It is about soft skills, learning that soft skills. It teaches us lessons of humanity. It highlights talents and leads to innovation and discoveries. And that is why I need society to stop placing so much emphasis on the school that persons attend. Because the school that you attend does not signal your capabilities.
It is about what you go there and what you do at that school. And I also want us to stop placing so much emphasis on competition against schools in this country, because it is about producing well-rounded citizens. And I will go back to this HFLE program because I am passionate about that. I feel as though that is a tool, a transmission tool, and I keep saying it, because whatever you cannot learn at home because mommy has to work 2 jobs, you must be able to learn at school. And I feel that that program could be so much more than just a free period. When I was going to school, that was a free period, and I'm here to say I don't want that to be a free period, but I want that to be a period where we are teaching our students the necessary skills that they need to function in society. So I will go back to that because it will not directly take away from the syllabus, but it will be a period for us to produce, again, well-rounded citizens. Also in that program, because we are all about persons meeting their full potentials, we're also toying with the idea of, preparing our students with the necessary information needed to take their regulation test, their permit. Because I believe that, persons need to know how to drive, not everybody may have the resources to obtain a vehicle, but if you have that knowledge from school, when you have that chance to go and take your test, it will be much easier for you, because at the end of the day, again, I will stress that it is about producing well-rounded citizens, and that is why the government is proposing these things. And as time goes on, there will be much more changes, because you cannot find a perfect fit, because times are changing and times will continue to change. But if we are serious that the youth are the future of this country, we have to start equipping them with the necessary knowledge needed. Right now, we're trying to fight for reparatory justice. A lot of persons don't even know what reparations is. Personally, for me, I took history, and the first time I heard the word reparations was last year, and then I had to, educate myself. And these are things that we need to start teaching our young people from the grassroots level, because in order for us to go forward, we must know about the past so that we don't make the same mistakes in the future. So, Mr. Speaker, at this time, I beg to move this resolution. Beg to move that this resolution do not pass. Sorry.
I second this motion.
The question is that this resolution be passed. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those not in favor say nay. The resolution will now stand passed. Leader of the opposition, you now have the floor.
Yes, sir. Mr. Speaker, sir, I beg to reserve my right to speak and move the vote of thanks.
Permission granted.
I want to thank everyone for coming today, especially those in the public gallery, whether it be from tertiary, secondary, or primary education, sir. I also want to thank the opposition for not providing any knee-jerk solutions, but properly thought out, critically thought out, and meticulously thought out solutions here today, including more social workers, more guidance counselors, and our advisor on finance for how this venture should be funded. And sir, as we prepare our children for the world of today, we cannot forget to mention not only their e-readiness, but also their work readiness. And sir, in a world where contracts are the thing of today, we need to educate our children also in schools about what to expect in this world of contracts, sir. As when you go for a mortgage or a loan, sir, contracts aren't really viable. The youth are crying out for the financial institutions and employers, sir, to come together to instill some kind of a clause rather than getting 3 month and 6 month contracts to say, well, this is a 5-year contract and it will be reviewed every 6 months or so. And this is another way in which we can include in our educational system, sir, how we go forward, how we proceed, and this is what the youth of today want. And sir, I want to thank the Ministry of Youth, Sport and Community Empowerment for providing this debate for us, providing all the sessions. I want to thank the Ministry of Education, sir, for the continued education that we get, the government of the day for the continued free education, and everyone else who made today possible, including you, sir. Thank you.
Mr. Speaker, I beg to move that this House do now adjourn to a sign day.
I second that.
Okay, thank you, Leader of Government Business. At this point in time, I do share the sentiments of the Prime Minister and the Opposition Leader. This has been an enriching experience. Filling this role as Speaker is not one that I took lightly, and I am overwhelmed at how eloquently, how articulately we each presented our arguments and our cases, whether for or against. I applaud the level of camaraderie from either side of this chamber. It was incredible. I thank you, and I look forward to continuously being present as we engage in further discourse on this particular issue on education and further matters that affect the youth. At this point in time, I would like to... The question is, the House is adjourned. My apologies.
I second that.
Thank you. Greatly appreciated. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those not in favor say nay. I believe the ayes have it. The session is now adjourned.